Hello, everybody. It's like a new week. Folks. Yo. Holy crap, it's a new week. It's been a little while. It's been a cool minute. Missed y'all. How you doing? I think we left, last Tuesday? It's been almost a week. Gosh. I've been missing this. I've been missing talking and going over some good Star Citizen news. We've got some good stuff planned today. First up, to diverge from my thumbnail and title, we're actually going to make a little pit stop at Digital Foundry. So, you may know them. You may not. Digital Foundry is kind of the industry standard for analysis of graphics, performance, and just the general running of games. They talk about a lot of games. They like a lot of games. They're well respected in the community, 1.3 million subscribers here on YouTube. They've got a newsletter, they've got tools, they've got a lot of stuff. And they actually do talk about Star Citizen sometimes. So they recently went over the Star Engine trailer, and I wanted to give you guys a look at what they had to say. Digital Foundry has covered Star Citizen a couple times in the past, but it's been a little while. I nagged them a little bit on Twitter if they were going to do this, and I was hoping they'd do a whole video, a whole talk on it, but we got about 10 minutes of analysis on what they think of the Star Engine, which I think would be pretty cool because, like I said, they've covered the game in the past, and they've always been interested in what it's bringing to the industry. So, without further ado, we will get into this and see what they have to say. But welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming in, guys. Like I said, it's been a week. We took a little break off from the stream, so I'm betting YouTube and Twitch are not going to pass out notifications quite as well as normal. So this will probably be a slow start, but for everybody who got in here early, as always, I like to reward you with the best. So we'll start with the best, and then we'll get into engineering gameplay later, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the composition of music for Star Citizen. And if you're lucky, if Mrs. Tomato might be feeling extra blessing today, she might even drop you guys a secret code for the latest giveaway we're running on the new Santok. Sorry, that's not the right one. It's the other alien ship, the Gatak Sulin. Check that out, guys. Exclamation point giveaway. We'll give you the link to that. And thanks, Mav, for the bits and the dog emotes. And yes, for the sub. Appreciate you. All right, let's get started. Welcome in, Holston Coop, Mav, Plywood, Zach, Brent, Punji, Unbeckable, Rofus, The Bird, Echo, Sunrise, Suppressor. How y'all doing today? Frank, good to see you, Vastin, Revolver. Let's start talking about graphic stuff and see if they're as surprised and excited about it as we are.
But I think that's all we've really got to say about that one. So let's move on to our next topic. Well, here we go. Star Engine, Star Citizen, another big 26-minute video posted by the developers.
Only 26.
Only 26 minutes.
Shame for shame.
Alex, why don't you talk us through
Let's be honest. Anybody else was like thinking that we were going to get like a maybe 5-minute look at the Star Engine thing, and then it ended up being a 26-minute video. I actually thought that the Squadron 42 video was also going to be like 5 minutes long maybe, and then it ended up being half an hour. Good stuff.
This is your game. What's going on there? What are we going to get excited about?
So this year is actually something, they showed a version of this video at the CitizenCon that I talked about 3 weeks ago now? 2 weeks ago? How long ago was it? But since then, they re-released it, and they changed some things about it. Because they always showed a work in progress version of it. Like it had like obvious funny bugs in it with like the AI. They like reintegrated a new version of the AI in the game. And it's like the original one had them like running into like stairs at some point, and they added some other nice things in it. But the reason I want to talk about this is because it shows like John when I talked about it back then, John asked me a question like, what is it like when you just move around in Star Citizen? And this video is a good point to show off like what it means to like go around in the game world. It takes some liberties. I mean,
that's the biggest thing, right? Is like the whole the go-to comparison now is Starfield. Every single time you talk about Star Citizen, if planetary transitions come up, or I guess rather, Starfield has made Star Citizen seem so much more impressive to people because of how many loading screens are in that game. So then every time you talk about moving around in Star Citizen or something, that comparison is always brought up, and I've seen it almost every time I've ever watched this trailer and looked at comments or anything.
With the aspect of like you would be in a ship in this game, you wouldn't be just like a free floating camera, but it is also constrained in the exact same way a ship is. Like at multiple points in this trailer, it'll go into what is like the quantum drive state, where it brings you fast, like close to the speed of light to actually move around in like a good pace. Otherwise you'd be taking, a really long time to go between planets. But they do that multiple times in the trailer, and you get to see like you just moving from one.
I think this is also really cool. They added in this relative velocity and relative distance covered because relative distance. Because like if you think about it, anytime when we're watching movies like sci-fi movies, space movies, Star Wars, they all do this where like they move or they show ships moving around in space in ways that's just, it doesn't even make sense, right? Like they'll show like the ship jumping into orbit over a planet, and it's like 50,000 kilometers away from the planet, and then and then they just like kind of show it conventionally soar down into the atmosphere of the planet, and you're like, how fast are they going? So I like that they showed the relative velocity here, because you can kind of get a sense of like, okay, so if I'm moving this speed, that's what a planet looks like when I'm flying past it, and it gives you more context to space. That's nice. Thanks for that.
Planets
wish we could fly that
moving
fast
to like a jump point in the game, and it gives you a sense of the scale, because you like start off at like the solar level. They start off with the really cool like Wing Commander Recreate Worlds Origin systems, like the conductor opening up the level, like really great callback to the Wing Commander games or Origin games. And then it moves into like looking at a planet, and that's like one thing that they added to this trailer that's really awesome is there's like the relative speed on the right hand side, and you can see it tick up close to like the speed of light at times. Mm-hmm. And they also show the amount of distance covered in the game, because they're moving, ridiculously far, like, AU's levels at one point when they go through the jump gate. And it goes through all the kind of things that over the years that Star Citizen, that has made it such an ambitious and interesting project. It's showing off things that you just don't ever see in games. Like there's one point when they're going through the atmosphere on, I believe it's one of the planets in the Pyro system. So the latter half of the video, like really beautiful blue clouds.
Oh, dude.
And then all of a sudden you see like,
right?
Yeah.
Oh.
I think you see a reclaimer, which is a ship that kind of is in the game so players can salvage broken ships and like detritus in the universe and sell it on the market. And they show it coming down through the atmosphere, and they show like a bunch of people on the ship going around trying to fight a fire that had broken out on the ship as the ship goes down.
In the central core.
And these are things
this is so
that,
funny.
Like,
no, this is the new one. But you guys remember in the first one when the people were just literally standing in the fire, like they did not care that they were burning alive. That was funny.
That had broken out on the ship as the ship goes down.
In the central core.
And these are things that like multi-crew gameplay, something you only really got in like Star Trek Bridge Commander, if you've ever played it. A couple other games try and achieve it in a like in a 2D space, but like actually a 3D space where that's just only one part of the game world. That's very, very interesting. And then it kind of just goes around from place to place, showing off to you a bunch of gameplay systems that the game has been. There's a reason why this game takes a really long time to make. Like you get a sense of that through the scale of the trailer itself. I
wonder how long it's going to take for other people to start. I guess that's what started to happen after CitizenCon. Now is like people are like, oh, some of this seems like it would have taken a long time to make, but I still don't think we're at that point where everybody is kind of like, okay, 10 years, all right, okay, fine. It's definitely still very much up to subjection, and I think that's fine because they made a lot of mistakes. Like they could have done this faster. It could have taken longer too, but I think if more than anything, that's what this video did. It was like they finally were able to just be like, hey guys, this stuff's actually kind of cool.
Pretty rare in a game to show off all these things. It takes 26 minutes to do it, and they do a very good job with it. And it takes time. It's got really great atmospheric music in the background.
Isn't it also an unbroken cut? Like it's just one camera?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, of course. You talk about like the God of War games. This is actually an unbroken cut.
And it's cool because it covers so much ground.
It covers a lot of ground. One little thing I want to talk about that I want to critique about the trailer, though. I liked it a lot. But for some reason, I don't know why it happened, but it's a 4K 30 upload. It's compressed fine enough, But there was a lot of macro blocking in a lot of scenes, especially the space scenes that I don't know if that was YouTube or if it was the upload itself. Hard to know. But there was also like a constant semi-persistent tick that would happen in the frame rate and or in the video itself. It happens a couple times when it's crossing the planets and you can see it. And it's like, I didn't actually stop and do frame by frame looking to see exactly what it was, but I would imagine maybe a 60 hertz container video would have done better for any of these issues in general. The rest of the issues can... Another thing that's really interesting to talk about this video is they're showing off the game running in what is a DX11 client, actually. The game doesn't have Vulkan in right now. And the irony of this is that they're showing off all this density and da-da-da, and it's running under DX11. And it really goes to show that, like, a PC-made game, in spite of all the issues that it has currently in the current version of the game, it can still achieve like densities far greater than all the DX12 games we've ever seen.
See,
before.
That's the kind of stuff I come to Digital Foundry for, you know, it's like that kind of context, because we all hear them talk about how they want to switch from their Gen 11 renderer to their Gen 12 renderer, which is not meant to specify the DX level. It's just the name they chose, but they want to get Vulkan in and all this stuff. And we hear them talk about it, right? But it's nice to hear from a third party that, hey, the work that they've done, it means something. And the additional stuff that they're going to do is a good optimization on top. People ask about when is optimization happening? That's what he's talking about right here, right now.
Or under DX11 clients. So it's like, there's a lot to talk about.
Can it
here.
do the DX10 water?
Yeah, they have even better than DX10 water, John. I imagine, like, if you were sitting with me right now talking about it, I'd just say go on to YouTube, click a link, find it. It's pretty easy to find. Watch it, sit down. It's really, really enjoyable watch. It gives me super serious, like, when they initially showed off, like, Crysis, they had all these really cool in-engine trailers where they would show off a variety of things in Crysis in the environments itself.
Yes.
And they're doing that here. You know, like the original Crysis trailer from, like, XO7 or something like that shows off like the bridge with the ropes and like the barrels falling on it, and you're just like, I've never seen that in a game before. And here they're showing like off like ridiculously awesome water sims or like spaceship crashing sims or just incredible scale of going through like planetary space transitions, stuff you just that just don't happen in any other games. It gave me those serious vibes. So like, if you love tech, watch this trailer. You don't need to buy Star Citizen. I'm not that guy that says you need to buy it, but just be in awe of the.
If you like this trailer, go buy it.
Those ambition the game has.
Also, use my referral code.
Yeah, enjoy the pretty sights and sounds. It's a very good looking trailer.
Man,
it does look phenomenal.
It kind of just reminded me of, different games in the end, but the sense of scale is what I was hoping for. It was Starfield in the end, but having played through that game, it ended up feeling very small. You know what I mean? It just, with everything being segmented and all the loading screens and the zoning and the way it just works, and then eventually you just use fast travel because there's nothing really to see.
You know, I've still not done my own full review on this, but I mentioned it a couple times. And like my first impressions video of Starfield, I talk about how I felt like it was a great RPG experience. Obviously, that's first impressions. Things may have changed, but in that video, I talk about how it felt like a great RPG experience. But the loading might be a problem. That was about 15 to 20 hours into the game. And it ended up, I think being one of the bigger problems, obviously, with the way that people have been reviewing and critiquing the game. But it really is a bummer because, like, even when you look at a game like Mass Effect 3, which was, in my opinion, the previous bar for a good space opera RPG. Outer Worlds was great, just didn't reach that scale. Like, you'd have little segments of manual flight around the map, and it would still give you this sense that you're at least traveling far distances. It wasn't like a loading screen. It wasn't much better, but I expected us to take a pretty significant step up from that, even in the casual space. And it was, like, No Man's Sky, I think, gets it fairly well. Even Star Wars Outlaws, coming from massive studios at Ubisoft, looks like they might actually handle it a little bit better. Believe it or not. From what I've been seeing from the trailers, it's trailers. So Starfield had trailers too. And we were pretty aware of what Starfield was going to do. But yeah, Star Wars looks like it actually might give a more seamless flight experience. And I think when it comes to space, this is a different type of game. This isn't Assassin's Creed. This isn't GTA. Those games don't have that many loading screens, but like you have to think of a space game as different because you need scale to show that it's big, but you need methods of getting around that scale without taking you out of the game. And I don't think they did that very well. I think they really should have taken a bite out of Elite Dangerous and No Man's Sky strategies. Starfield's Mass Effect 1, but Bethesda-fied. Yeah, and it's kind of like that in more ways than one, right? Because like, just like Mass Effect 1 kind of got grabbed up by Microsoft to help sell the 360, Starfield got grabbed up by Microsoft to help sell the Xbox One X, or Game Pass, I guess. And just like Mass Effect 1 depended on a very RPG heavy leaning sort of first step into a new universe with artifacts and visions and stuff. Apparently so is Starfield. So maybe they'll go the same path. Maybe this will be an amazing series, but probably be a little while till we find that out because they've got to make Elder Scrolls 6 first.
In the spaces, it's a very different game. It feels very small, and it did not really capture this feeling of space being a huge, space
daunting thing, and scary thing.
This, of course, is just a trailer video, and Star Citizen has its own crazy history. But man, like this gets me excited for space games again. In a way. Like this looks. Yeah. This is the type of scale I want to see in this type of game.
And I think the scale is really about selling space. That's the one issue that with Starfield, like you're saying, like if you can fast travel, then it kind of cuts out the interesting aspect of like you're talking about all the time Death Stranding, John. Like the A to B should be interesting in its own right. And Star Citizen, I mean, it's a sim game, so your level of enjoyment there is how much you enjoy going through space at like relativistic speeds. But it's there, and there's a whole game built around these things. It's really it's a lot of fun.
That is the difference. It's a lot of fun to play with friends. You're exactly right. Yeah. It's the journey.
That's such a big thing. It's all choice. It's all choice and consequence. I'm sorry I'm pausing this so much, but like that's huge, right? You have fast travel, but you give someone a consequence for that fast travel or a reason to have to do it and pay attention to it. Like they're adding that into quantum travel, which I think is good. But there's also quantum fuel. There's like wear and tear. There's all these things you have to keep in mind. It's not just you're traveling from one place to another. You got to make the game that part of the game
versus the reward. And a lot of open world games, including Starfield, like they're all built to like what happens at point A or point B is the interesting thing, and everything in between really isn't. Which is also weird because Bethesda's prior games were pretty good about the in between stuff, I'd say. And I think Starfield it got away from them in terms of scale, because to make something that with as many different places you could go, they couldn't really deliver a world like that.
Arguably, that's where the interplanetary travel could have, like, they could have still had you loading from, they could have not had space to ground transitions, but they still could have had like the equivalent of the Skyrim, you leaving Winter Run or whatever the name of the, what is the name of the main city, first one you get to? I forget the name of it. It's not Winter Run. That's Game of Thrones, probably.
Whiterun.
But like you get there and that's a load. You get in the city, but when you get out of the city onto the countryside, that's the more free-form Bethesda. Like you go between places and discover things.
Well, the problem there is that there was nothing to discover there, because it's like most planets were like one city and then just like generated terrain that had a border that you would run into.
That was also just I mentioned that in the impressions too. You leave Aquila City. You travel like half a mile into the hills, you pick up a data pad and look at the lore, and the person is like, "Ho, good thing we found the safest place on the whole planet besides Aquila City." And you're like, there's a whole planet and the safest place besides the city is half a mile away. Like I feel like that was one of the most jarring moments for me when I was playing Starfield. And I said it in the impressions just as kind of an afterthought. I didn't realize until like a month later that was going to be kind of indicative of the game as a whole, because there's just so much opportunity. You can't go and put stuff like that in the lore, right? That just makes it feel like there's no point to the rest of the planet. And I don't know, that hurts. That hurts. Haven't even gotten a command yet for the giveaway. You get into the giveaway on the website, my friend. Because the giveaway is posted on Twitter, it's on YouTube, it's on all kinds of places.
There wasn't any purpose in actually going out there most of the time, and that is kind of the bummer. Like even, oh man, yeah, I know what it is. I think they made a good game for what it is. It's just it didn't do the thing that I was hoping it would do. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, but
that's fine.
I still want a game like that, and it's not.
It doesn't. Yeah, it like obviously different games, different strokes for different folks. This is Star Citizen is absolutely not Starfield in any sense of the word.
It does not
completely
try to be.
different. It's an MMO.
Yeah.
But one little thing I want to call out at the end here, there's a lot of great stuff in the trailer, but also if you go to the very end of the trailer, the Star Engine logo, which they apparently just coined, is actually the Origin Systems logo. It's got like that the comet and the starburst at the end of the logo.
You're right.
So they're calling back to a lot of old Chris. It's at the very end of the trailer.
Yeah.
So
that's so cool.
Scroll to the very end of it. It's the old Origin Systems starburst with the comet. It's very cool. But it's good to see this game seeing more success now in the last couple of years. Seems to keep growing. And I'll be covering it on the channel as soon as it is humanly possible. Hopefully with John. And then also a tech look is due at some point
Alex,
too.
I seem to recall you said you were going to look at Star Citizen again when they moved to Vulcan, and that was like 3 years ago, and they still haven't moved to Vulcan yet, so.
Calling them out. You're calling them out.
Imposed.
That was my arbitrarily imposed date, but I'm pretty sure that
he hasn't said too much about it yet until that line.
It's maybe the version after this next one.
We'll see.
They said they have it done.
See you in 3 years.
They even have they have really great posting. Like they have a developer board. Oh my god, it's so great. All the developers usually chime in there, but their graphics programmers do. And they were talking about like PSO compilation stutter. They were talking about ray trace direct lighting as well too, that they want to maybe get in the game after they finish off GI, which they showed off at CitizenCon too. So they're very interactive, and it's like picking up pace now.
Okay.
Finally,
Alex, we need to do that.
See,
video
together. This is the kind of stuff that people need to hear. Like, this video's at 20,000 views in 2 hours. This is not the kind of thing that like CIG can put out a video saying this stuff, and A, it's coming from CIG, and B, not that many people actually watch that. These are the kind of publications that need to be saying this sort of stuff. It doesn't have to be some big splash. It doesn't have to be a big trailer or release of a game. It's like, as you hear over and over, oh yeah, this game's making more progress. Oh yeah, they're doing stuff. Look at this, look at that. It's like those little things that slowly tip somebody back towards considering this is a game, like an actual project being made. So that kind of feedback is good, and I think it's a little bit more credible than just sort of your casual reaction. So I wanted to bring this up so that you guys could check out what Digital Foundry was saying about this stuff.
Culminating in a visit to CitizenCon. No.
Yeah, I think CitizenCon is always somewhere in the US these days. They used to have multiple. They used to have a German CitizenCon, I think.
Yeah.
But they kind of pulled
They
back.
should bring it back. They should have it here in Frankfurt.
Bring it back, Jared.
Okay, let's move on to our next story. Okay, so to round off our news story.
All right, so that was our Star Citizen segment. I will leave that linked here somewhere. I'll drop this link for you guys if you want to check this out yourself. But yeah, that's the segment. That's what Digital Foundry is saying. Hopefully we get to hear more from them when Vulcan finally comes online. I'm sure they'll do something, and maybe something on Global Illumination as well. But good stuff. I'm glad they finally got around to covering that. So, now, the real juice, the actual business. Space Mother is here in chat. And it looks like the crew is around. I see y'all filled into the room here. Let me get some elevator music in here. So, first off, I've got a question for you guys before we start this. Somebody complained about my intros a couple weeks ago. This one's a shout out to you. I'm making this one extra long. I've got a question for you guys. Who is excited for engineering? Who's actually thinking, oh yeah, this is the gameplay for me. This is when I heard about Star Citizen, engineering was exactly what I was looking for. And then who, on the other hand, is absolutely mortified at the idea of them putting them in the game? Now, I know there's plenty of in between. I'm not asking about you guys. I want to know the extremes. I want to know the people who are very excited for this and the people who really don't like it. I'm seeing excitement in chat. And not so much excitement in chat. Sticking to small fighters for now. That's fair. Crouch! Yo, Crouch is in chat. Hey, good to see you, dude. If you guys don't know Crouch, check out his YouTube channel. He's also making Star Citizen content. We've done a couple streams and stuff together. We gotta hang out again soon, my man. I hope you're getting back into the game. I know you took a break. Engineering, salvage, and moving boxes are your chosen professions. I like that stuff. That stuff sounds like good stuff. Give you more money sinks. I can agree with that. Colt, yo, thank you for the sub. Thanks for gifting that out. And Caliban, thanks for using your Prime sub as well. Appreciate you guys. If it fits the simulator aspect of SC, it will limit how many huge ships are out there, making it more special to see them in action. Solo pilot giant ships everywhere would be dumb. 100% agreed. And that's a big part of this, right? Is like all of these game features are game features and also game balance. They're trying to counteract each other to give us the ability to do a lot of things, but also make sure that we can't do a lot of those things indiscriminately. So engineering is a big part of that. And I think what a lot of people are really worried about with it is what this means for ships that are like Cutlass sized and below, you know, our casual daily drivers, the ship that you don't have to message other people to go use, right? You want to be able to just jump into the game and start using a ship and not have to deal with meeting up and scheduling with other people. So that's, I think, where a lot of people are concerned. We'll have to see if they go over that here today, but we're going to sit down with Thorsten and Guillermo and talk about this new game system coming online. I wish Dan Truffin was here, but I guess he's busy. Don't think you can avoid solo capital ships considering how many players pledged for them. I think those players are going to be a little bit disappointed. That's what I think is going to be the biggest problem for this game, is the amount of people who own a lot of ships that aren't going to be able to use those ships as much as they might like. You know, like besides engineering, you're going to have to pay for all that stuff. You're going to have to run around your ship and like trigger a bunch of stuff. And you might have some AI blades and stuff, but that'll only get you so far. It'll be fun for a minute, so hoping we can hire NPC crew for engineering. Eventually, yeah. But how about enough of me talking? Let's listen to the experts, see what they've got to say. This is engineering gameplay, our latest update on what's going to be in the game. And then I think we'll jump into like some of the composing stuff here, talk about the music. But engineering, let's get into it.
Hello everybody, welcome to another special edition of Star Citizen Not So Live. I'm your host Jared Huckabee, and if you've never seen Star Citizen Live before, it's usually where we take about an hour at the end of our week and we sit down with our developers and we discuss their work, their lives, their habits, their love of chicken. On this week's show, we are pre-taped because I'm going to Bar Citizen Milan this weekend, and we have a special guest here in the studio available to do a show live, so we thought we'd take advantage of that. Joining us on the show for the first half here are esteemed members of the EU-PU feature team. We got Thorsten and Guillermo. Thorsten, Guillermo, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. Glad to be here.
There's nothing wrong with love for chicken.
There's nothing wrong with love for chicken.
Thank you.
All right, so you're here today because you presented the resource management presentation at CitizenCon this year. And we collected some questions and we tried to do a follow-up show about 2 weeks ago, and we unfortunately had some terrible network and computer-related problems. We weren't able to finish your show, so thank you for being here. Thorsten, can I ask, what brings you to Manchester in person? It wasn't this. I don't have that kind of budget.
No. Actually, it's two reasons. So one is the restructure that will happen next year. So meeting the folks that come over from the Squadron team and get to know them. So because they will be working closely with me on the PU. And the second, more important for the community, is actually the release, or the soon to be released structural salvage, because we have our go no go at the end of the week, and because of the importance of the feature, we decided it makes sense to come over and help the team to get it ready.
Well, that's the virtue of Frankfurt just being a hop, skip, and a jump over the channel anyway. So
that is a really crucial feature. Also a huge one. It's kind of surprising how quickly they're getting into the game after showing us just the prototype earlier this year. It's one of the features that I had said I think I had said at the beginning of this year that I thought would come in this year, and then by the midpoint this year, I was like, okay, they're probably not going to do it. So it'll be interesting to see if they get it in. We'll get that news on Wednesday. It'll break a lot of hearts or make a lot of days. Excited mostly just to see what the implementation looks like, because we just saw the prototype. What did they do? Noble Knight, thanks for the sub, mate. Oh, by the way, folks, there is a poll up on both chats. Just kind of getting the temperature of the chat. See how you guys are feeling about engineering gameplay. Go ahead and answer in on that. And yeah, I don't know. I was gonna say maybe whoever answers the most gets a prize or something, but I'm pretty sure that'll be YouTube anyways. Let's get back to it.
A few weeks ago, we put up a thread collecting questions. We collected those questions from you, the Star Citizen community, and let you vote up which ones you wanted to see answer most. Then Guillermo and Torsten went through the questions and pulled the questions that they felt they had the best answers for, and we're just going to jump into it. So the first question, which actually is sort of answered by our SRV episode that just aired yesterday by the time people see this, will soft death ships be repairable? We know from ISC the answer is yes, but can you give us any more information on this? How does this work?
So the first thing is that soft death is a bit of a temporary solution. We don't have the full damage penetration. We showed a placeholder for it at CitizenCon. And I think everybody saw the Maelstrom presentation with the ships breaking apart. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be part of it. What we right now have for soft death eventually will be more of a systemic thing, in that some ships, if they kill your power plant or they kill all your relays, or you have, a very bad crash landing and you no longer have wings, or, your ship is no longer able to fly or to move under its own power, there will be some degree of repairs you can do manually if you get spare parts or, you've got engineers working on it. But as you mentioned, the SRB is also the solution when that ship cannot fly. There's nowhere to repair it on the field. You just throw it back to a base and do the regular repairs there.
And so I understand. So like I said, right now we have this soft death. It's this the entire thing doesn't just destroy; it just becomes kind of a potentially useless hulk. Mm-hmm. But with the SRV, we'll now be able to grab it with a tractor beam and pull it back to a repair station and get it repaired instead of waiting for the insurance payout.
The repair isn't in yet, so you will be able to move it, and but repairing, I think, doesn't. We didn't prepare it for that yet. So there is no drop-off points yet with the SRV. But for the future, that will be the case, that you have the dedicated drop-off points where you can then fix the ships that you cannot repair on site anymore, especially the bigger ships with, because there's the concept of size 1 and size 2 ship items you can replace, right? You can pull them out with a tractor beam and pull something or push something back in to that, whereas with the bigger items, size 3 and upwards, you cannot remove. So if they are destroyed, you lost them, and then you need to bring the ship that is now dead in the water into the hangar and have it repaired there.
Gotcha. So after 322, some version of you'll be able to bring the soft death ships back to specific places to get them repaired. No. So you can bypass the recovery thing. And then, of course, as Maelstrom and more elements of the physicalized damage system comes online, soft death itself goes away. No. And it just becomes, your ship can now be disabled through a variety of methods and therefore resolved and fixed through a variety of methods. Okay? Mm-hmm. Next question. With the implementation of the engineering role, how hard will it be for a solo player to fly a multi-crew ship like the Cutlass, Constellation, or anything bigger?
So it will be harder, but only it will be harder if you have a ship that already has a certain age. So if you have your brand new ship that you just pulled out of your hangar for the first time, the wear and tear is non-existent on it. So that means that there is no maintenance required. So if you prepare the energy management on the ship, no matter how big the ship is, you can fly it on your own. But does it really make sense? Because then you are suddenly on the move, then you might get attacked, so parts will get destroyed on your way. That will result in, you from the pilot seat have to get up and then walk over to those destroyed pieces and repair them. So yes, you can do it, but it will be a real pain to actually maintain your ship. So Yeah.
This is pretty consistent with the messaging we've had since the beginning of this. We introduced the idea of the engineer role at CitizenCon 2952, then followed up on it with an ISE towards the beginning of this year, and then you guys followed up on it with the resource management presentation at this year. So we've done 3 pretty, hefty deep dives.
Normally I would pull those up so we could go over them, but we've done that like 3 times this year. I'll link I'll try to link those episodes down below, but they're a pretty easy search on the channel if you want to check them out. There's a lot of stuff that has gone into engineering over the last few years. It's a big system. This is one of the biggest things they've ever done. This might be the biggest feature change they've ever put into the game. It's like there's a lot of big features, but at this point, I think the ones that affect ships like Maelstrom and engineering are the kind of widest reaching, most intensive ones to implement. So we'll see how this goes, but if you want to see more of the history of how this came together, I'd check out those videos.
Dives into this idea of engineering and the resource management system. And through all 3 of them, it's been pretty clear, like, this doesn't make it impossible to operate by yourself. It's just going to make it easier and more effective if you bring friends, if you bring talented and skilled friends who understand these roles. But if you're willing to put in the elbow grease,
and that was always very important to us, that we make sure that we don't block away the content for players that really would like to fly out their ship.
Yeah.
And it works. They can travel from A to B, and like if they avoid combat and if they make sure that they maintain it, like when they have the time to actually maintain it and bring down the wear and tear again. Yeah, sure, it will run smoothly, like with fresh cars, right? So you can also have a fresh car that just doesn't break that easily, right?
Yeah. See, this is like the way they're saying that is very low key, but that's probably the most important statement of this whole thing, is that this isn't going to kill these ships for solo players. I think there is a minimum of gameplay you should be able to do solo in a big ship, but as he's saying, like, this is like getting into a large cruise ship or a large boat of any sort and trying to drive it. At some point, you'll need more people to do it well, but you can make it happen for yourself. You can do some of the stuff. You can get from one place to another. You can carry the stuff you need to or the vehicles you need to. You just can't start running that ship at its peak performance, which I think is the important distinction. Yurikin, I think most people using Constellation Series as a solo freighter, I don't think this hurting people's ability to use a ship like the Connie as a solo freighter is going to kill the Connie. I think it's just going to change the way people use the Connie, which is good, right? That we have solo freighters in the game. It's best if CIG tries to make each ship that's made for a certain thing specialize more in that certain thing, because we got 150 something ships. There's no point in having a bunch of them do the exact same thing the exact same way. Most change for insurance and increase claim timers 10 times. Reset components when claiming. Ships are so throwaway right now. There's going to be a lot of things they have to change. Yeah. Agree, you solo a large ship but not expect to get 100% use from said ship. Right. Problem with crew gameplay is making each person feel as rewarded as solo. I think that there's going to be a mismatch, both in expecting the same amount of gameplay out of solo and multiplayer gameplay, and in expecting the experience to offer a similar reward, you know? Like, you might not have as much fun playing in a crew, but you might make more money. You might have more fun or make less money. Just kind of trade-offs. Doesn't hurt solo. He legit just said that. It's making it more complex for everyone across the board. But he said it does hurt solo. You can't fly. You can get from point A to point B, but you can't do everything else. I think that does hurt solo compared to what we can do now. Ship cost in-game to make it work in terms of purchase. Right now it feels like you probably skip the Connie for the C2. Lots of balancing they're gonna have to do. Yeah. Pricing, components, all that stuff. Economy. That's what we've been waiting for.
To the difference between single fighters or any ships with interiors. And like, you know, if you're in a fighter, you lose a component, well, that's it. Your wing is gone. You cannot stop and, you know, attach it again. Or, well, you know, any of your internal components get hit, you're dead. When you're with a MultiCrew ship, I mean, you can just take that damage and accept that you no longer have shield generators. The difference obviously is if you have a crew, they can put out fires, they can really mitigate that damage, or find solutions for stuff that if you're solo, well, it's going to be more complicated. But again, the ship works. It's not like we're going to purposefully make MultiCrew ships bad, or like worse. It's kind of the opposite. If a MultiCrew ship with a crew ends up being more survivable, more effective, because again, it has all these redundancies. If it's on fire, you can put it out. If there's a missing component, you can replace it.
It's kind of just logic.
Something you don't get.
Building an effective
you have more hands.
Line for a single player, and then finding ways to improve the experience by adding friends.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be the same if we're talking about turrets. Obviously, you have friends in the turrets. Well, you can shoot better because you actually have access to those guns. Or if you get boarded or somebody stows away, you have more friends inside. Well, again, that's also a plus.
Kind of fits too, because this game isn't necessarily one where you compare numbers. I mean, I know people compare numbers when it comes to ships, but there's a lot of this game that comes from like feel and understanding. The whole skill-based aspect of this game and trying to make people pay attention to what they're doing, it falls in line with this as well. You kind of you go and you crew your ship. You got to think about logically what you're going to need to run that ship, not necessarily fill like a name on a list per se. Thank you for the sub, Korean Gamer and Anthro. Appreciate you both. 4 months now. Cheers. 9 months. Twitch, baby. Hey. And also there's a raffle going, it looks like, because of that sub. There should be. Let me get that going. Boo. There you go, Twitch.
So good.
Yeah, well,
David,
if you send a UPU playtest, yeah, it tends to be we kill ourselves accidentally. So
you had something you were thinking about adding there, Torsten.
What?
No? Okay, good.
Oh.
Let's see. Next question is about repair. Are mini games planned to fix things, or is it just nothing but magic beams over and over and over again?
So there were plans for having more bespoke repair, but that will not be part of the initial release. We will just go for the simple solution first, and then we will observe how that actually is perceived by the community. And if there is the necessity to actually make it more complex or more bespoke per item, then sure, we will think about that. But for now, it is really a very simple repair mechanic for the items, and then we will see. Because what we don't want to do is like you need to read a handbook to actually understand, like, okay, what item do I actually need? What resistor do I need? Like what capacitor do I need? It doesn't make sense that we have to make people study our game to actually be able to play it. So it's still a game.
Well, that's actually, when they describe deep space probing, they talk about how we'd be able to scan and get signatures of ships and stuff. And if you know the game well enough, you know those signatures by sight rather than needing to look it up or consult something else. And I feel like that is kind of what some people are looking for, Not necessarily the idea that you have to study in order to play, but like you need to study maybe just to be the best. And I'm guessing that's where they're leaning towards. I'm sure he doesn't mean this as like an overall overarching aspect of the game. But yeah, the idea of like needing to know that really deeply is kind of nice for the more in-depth stuff.
We have to make people study our game to actually be able to play it. So it's still a game. We are a simulation-driven game, so we want to tailor to that. But we really want this feature also to be out, so we don't want to like overcomplicate it and then block the release of it. Yeah. So
it's hard because there isn't one brush you can paint all Star Citizens with. Yeah. There are folks who want that 15-person
nerds
multi-crew capital ship experience. There are people who want to be alone in a starfarer out in the wilderness, just helping people with nobody else's like this. And then there's 100 brushes in between. So finding that sweet spot is always a bit difficult. But I agree with this idea that you get it out in a simplistic, in a functional form, and then you see how it fits with everything else that makes up the entire physicalized damage system. And then it's like, okay, if it does need more complexity, then we add more complexity. And it could be that all the other complexity we add for all the other systems is plenty, and repair is just fine with a simple beam kind of thing. So
yeah, and though that applies to actually.
It's weird the way they're answering this, because I'm pretty sure we all don't expect it to just be a beam. At least most people who have been following the development, I think, expect them to build on this and add more to the gameplay. What we're seeing in repair isn't the start, but it's also weird because they're not just outright saying that. They're talking about maybe considering keeping it as a beam, and I'm like, guys, that's not... It feels like there's more aspects to repair than just a beam. Like, you have to replace fuses. You have to replace components. We have subcomponents, right, that are supposed to be part of these systems. Replacing subcomponents inside of the components. Like, we've already seen that there's more to repair than just shooting a beam at a thing. So it's strange that they're not just coming out and saying that. But, who knows?
Actually repairing the item with the beam, obviously you still have the damage control of the whole ship, which involves, you can have fires, you can have bad atmosphere, you can have, actually loss of atmosphere or, toxic atmosphere due to a fire. Or you could also have relays being knocked out, and you need to figure out which items to, turn off or turn on to compensate and keep fighting as well as you can until somebody can repair that. So there is already a degree of complexity to the damage handling, but yeah, the main thing is going to be right now for repairing just the beam, and we'll see.
Yeah, but actually, you mentioned that we already have some items that need bespoke repair. So we have the fuses for the relay that needs to be exchanged. So that is a type of repair. We also have life support that is its own type of complexity with the scrubbers that you need to exchange to actually, like, at some point they will deplete. So this is also something that can be counted as
okay.
Maintenance or repair in this regard.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Like Guillermo just said, fire is its own danger. So that is definitely something that has a bespoke counter to it, which is the extinguisher or even venting the rooms. So there are some things that are already a bit more complex than, like, in comparison what we showed at CitizenCon, repairing the power plant, which is, you use the beam to repair it. But yeah, as said, so we have already a lot of complexity, and well, I wouldn't say that our team is the best in handling multi-crew gameplay, but like we try to be good, and it's really hard to manage. Like, even with the amount of people that we had on the ship, you saw us fail in the CitizenCon demo. We blew up. That wasn't intention that we blew up. We wanted to have a nice success at the end of the demo, but I was like, okay, let's leave it in. But yeah, so there's a lot of complexity already there.
You make a very good point. I want to be sure we shot. Now, unfortunately, we had to. Certain aspects of your presentation, it says we had to rush through because unfortunately somebody had to be scheduled after the Star Engine presentation, and they
always scheduling woes,
and deservedly so. But one of the key hallmarks is you were developing the presentation is not wanting to fake anything, not wanting to script anything. You were going to set up the scenario and just fly the ship, and whatever was going to fail, however it was going to fail, and you were going to deal with it however you were going to deal with it. And I really appreciated that when watching it, going, they didn't succeed. It's like, well, sometimes that's what's going to happen. And I think that's one of the hallmarks of Star Citizen is we try to present as honest and as forthright a picture of things as we can whenever possible. And that, it's like we tried to save it. We didn't do it that time.
Yep.
Speaking of that demonstration,
right.
This next question says, Earlier in ISC, we saw subcomponents for generators, coolers, and all that stuff. And it even has its own damage model. But in the CitizenCon demo, it looks like this type of engineering doesn't exist. Have subcomponents been replaced by relays, or they just weren't part of that demo?
So, I guess the fuses for the relays are part of the subcomponents we have. And we also, the life support system also has a set of subcomponents.
All right, so for anybody who doesn't know, subcomponents are essentially components for components. So this would be inside of your component, and you would be replacing them. When your component takes damage, the subcomponents are breaking. So when you're talking about, I think Vastin was kind of referring to, people were talking about health-wise. I'm thinking what might happen is either these subcomponents will give your components buffs, or they will be the health of your subcomponents. So you drop to a certain amount, one of your subcomponents busts, you have to go over, take it out, put it back in, you're back at 100% health. It might be a little different from that. They might explain that right here, but this is the footage that we have on some components right now. So this is the case where maybe NPC crew, this is just showing how AI would interact with it actually. Obviously they'd be similar to us. We're not as dramatic. Look at this guy, he's like, it's right here, buddy. It's just right here. But you can see that there are little slots inside of the component that you'll be able to reach in, grab, take out, change out. He's just inspecting, doing his NPC stuff. But we also have some close-ups.
Here, we've got the manufacturers going along here, and aside each one, you'll see a destroyed state. The idea is that over time, these become worn and eventually destroyed. That's why you need to replace them. So each one has its own broken variant.
Okay, that's the first bit, and then we have a little bit of a more of a like in the actual component view here.
You'll see here from the inside the interior here that the sub-items are quite dense and complex in design, especially when compared to the exteriors. Another thing that's quite important to us is brand identity. So other than the obvious decals with logos on littered about, we want the forms to describe the manufacturer. So in this Aegis one, you've got a lot of flowing shapes, a lot of double chamfers, quite sophisticated, where in contrast you've got lightning power where everything's a bit more utilitarian, there's more function over form.
Because detail and everything, right? So that's kind of an art. Obviously, it's more of an art look at what subcomponents are supposed to be, and then we have some tech animation.
Display the sub-items in front of the player so you can pull them out and put new ones in.
Basically just showing how they're going to animate when we work with them, and a little bit of concept art.
We are working on the sub-items that will be used to customize the performance of ship components, and making sure that when that feature comes online, there is a wide selection of visuals to support the gameplay.
For my my oldies but goodies in chat, y'all who have been around for a while, you might recognize that this last video was in the around the verse format rather than the ISC format, where the studio heads report from each studio about what's going on that month. So this is old. Like they've been sitting on this for a while. And again, like every time we go over these features, it just shows that like they're not getting rid of these plans that they've had and talked about. They just put them away until they're ready to do them. And I think that's what they're going to talk about here.
Scrubbers, for example.
And not only the scrubbers, but
yeah. And well, we were also thinking, maybe some components we were thinking about the other day may need to be subcomponents of maybe the CPU or of the avionics system or of the power plant. So yes, but only the way to say it would be like, yes, we have some components, they're still going to exist in some form, but only if it really makes sense if it's adding some functionality, because that's where just modeling health with.
You don't need to drill down on every single thing just because we need to drill down on every single thing.
Yeah, that's like our credo, or it started to be our credo, which is like we really want to have meaningful gameplay rather than complex gameplay for the complexity's sakes. So this is like something that is starting to be very, very important for us.
So they'll probably pick some like halfway point between what we were just looking at and what they're talking about here, that simplifies components but doesn't get rid of them, or subcomponents rather.
And but also to answer concretely on that question, so we have them on our plan. They are not currently planned for the initial release because there are several reasons, but like especially content would just kill us if we would just say, by the way, we want to have some components for every item, and then
we're often fond of saying bring it to the point of realism, then bring it back to the point of fun.
Exactly.
Like this, I just saw this wonderful.
Jared loves that one.
Wonderful 25th anniversary documentary for Half-Life.
Yeah, exactly.
Done by a guy I really respect, Dan O'Dwyer, who he and his team made it for Valve and whatnot. And there's this wonderful moment where Gabe is just like, I don't play video games to be real. It's like I got realism in the real world. That's not fun. It's not going to play video games to be fun. There's always this balance. I think there's this misnomer that everything has to be uber realistic, and I'm like, no, it has to be evocative of realistic. It has to have a sense of realism and stuff whenever possible, but you always got to bring it back to fun, and again, not dragging things down with unnecessary chores. Yeah. I mean, how many DLCs have we ever seen for a game that just seems like a whole new world of chores have been added? It's like, why was this added to this game? I didn't need more chores.
That's such a debate, though,
especially
because like who decides what's unnecessary? Some people would say that hygiene in this game is unnecessary, but you can also make the case that hygiene is important because it adds a consequence to you not paying attention to your character. It's like it's just constantly shifting debate about what's most important for the game, and at the end of the day, I guess it mostly comes down to the directors and Chris, right? Like they can't include everything that we want.
Something that we always have to consider, like every bit that we add adds to the time it actually takes to get to the gameplay that you actually want to consume.
Yeah. No, I think actually one subcomponent that you may see is since the resource network doesn't apply only to ships, it also applies to locations. And one example is for puzzles, for repairing a sub-network in a particular location as part of a mission, you may get, you need to swap out these parts, which may be bespoke or may also be the same kind of parts we use in ships. So it really depends on the level of complexity we want to add to a particular area of gameplay.
So we're talking about relays. We have relays for power. Are there any plans for additional relay type points for coolant, fuel, or data?
So all of those
sick.
actually go through the same set of relays. That means generally if you knock out a relay, all the resources you want to get to the items stop flowing that way. What we do have is kind of the opposite. It's relays that do not allow some resources through. This makes sense if you think of a Starfarer. We have the external tanks on one side and you have the internal tanks, and when you're giving fuel to some dude, you don't want to be draining your internal fuel tanks. And as far as the game is concerned, they are the same thing. They're just fuel tanks. Why cannot I take fuel from them? So we added relays that do not allow that kind of connection between both sides of the network. But we still obviously can have an alternate bypass that is turned off by default, and if you want to do that, we would allow it. But yes, a general rule, most ships or most situations, you're going to have all the resources going through the same route, and if you lose a connection, well, that's it.
That would be so cool if you could hack into like if you're in a large ship, let's be topical and say the Arastra. If you like sneak on board and you can hack into a relay to get limited access to other computer components or like parts of the ship or something, like a data feed instead of just getting their power and stuff, that'd be really cool. Or maybe you can hack their actual data from the ship. Ooh,
I really like this question, actually. So obviously, there's a generic setup for ships, and different ships will have different numbers of relays and different complexities and stuff. We've been using the Hammerhead as a wonderful example. We showed the Hercules at CitizenCon, so like this. Will there be a difference between the problems and issues and the capabilities between manufacturers? Like they're specifically asking, he goes, will Drake have more electrical faults on average than like an Origin ship? Drake owners suffer, quite a bit in the Precision universe, mostly just because they like Drake. But is there anything manufacturers? I'll get off of it. So are there any manufacturer-specific things built in for this?
There are actually two answers to that question.
Okay.
So the first part is every ship will have a somehow bespoke layout of where the relays will be located and how they will be connected. There will be differences between military ships, civilian ships, with military ships having more relays than civilian ships to allow for more redundancy.
Solid.
There will be also differences between
these
manufacturers,
are like,
because
that's like one of those little things that when a ship comes out and people are like, this is like, look at that component, this thing is going to be much better, or look at how many guns this has and stuff like that. Like, and then they talk about these kinds of, there are levels of quality and levels of sort of redundancy, and a military ship having more redundancy also falls in line with like some of these ships have thicker armor than other ships. So even though now they might seem underpowered or not good enough for their role, in the future they'll be a lot better because those things kick online. A big one of those would be the Terrapin.
Just like the way that their ships are looking, because we have to fit the relays on them, and that also dictates how the relay or the resource network is actually set up. And so there comes the first difference from. And the second is ship item manufacturers. So it's less Drake itself. So if you have like a very expensive power plant you put in your Drake ship, it will not suddenly like work worse.
Because it's sitting in a Drake housing.
Because it's sitting in a Drake ship. No, it will still.
No, that's simply not true. It does work worse. It's been. I've heard it. Drake, when you touch Drake metal, you just drop a tier of quality. I'm sorry, folks. It's just good fun.
The wear and tear rate will be different. So if you invest more money in your ship items, they are less likely to be affected by wear and tear. Malfunctions might be even triggered less often. So item choice will matter in that regards. So even like coming back to the single player, so if you invest a lot of money into your ship and buy the best items ever, you even reduce the amount of like interactions you have with the item. So it's more likely that you don't have to run around alone in your ship and try to fix it.
Yeah, and also in addition to brands, I think we already have it in game. You have the different classes of items. In the sense, you have the competition, military, industrial, civilian. That's also part of the balancing there. Competition item will probably have a very short lifespan because it's, we expect you to, to go after the race, go back, change it altogether or repair it, while an industrial or military part is expected to be in the field for a longer time. So that will affect, the wear and tear rate, and obviously, therefore,
some of the other component system and everything. Not all Drake ships will be created equally. You'll get to customize the ship.
The grades will get a different meaning. Like the types will get a new meaning to that.
Yeah. Oh, also, since again, this goes back to the damage system, which also, because we, without damage penetration and stuff like that, we don't actually get the fires or the actual damaging of the components. There the ships also become a bit more relevant. The armor, what materials the manufacturers use normally. We already have some differences planned on, this brand usually uses this type of alloy, which has some certain properties, which is how you get lighter ships or heavier ships.
That's nuts. Like, if the Gattac Sulan uses a certain type of material, in Star Citizen proper, we would have to source that material, right? So, like, what if it's just not in the same system? Like, what if nobody has that material? How's that going to work? That could be hefty. I feel like they're going to have to go around that in some way. Because you can't just be like, there's no material for your ship. Guess you're just going to have to keep going that way. Maybe everything will use one standard alloy for, like, base coat. I don't know. Then it costs a lot to get repairs, yeah, but legitimately, if you're running a repair ship like a Crucible, what if you just don't have titanium? That person's screwed, right? They're going to have to go somewhere else. That's going to be interesting. So much balance would have to go into the sort of material stuff surrounding this.
Armor ships, as a rule.
Sometimes I feel bad about making fun of Drake owners, but we're all just having fun, folks. It's in the lore of the universe that the universe generally looks down on Drake owners. None of us think anything less of you. Think I am a Drake guy. If you look at my ships, I'm mostly a Drake person. I love the Drake aesthetic. I'm a big fan of Jim Martin, who invented most of the Drake aesthetic, going all the way back to the Cutlass. So just know that it's always in good fun, because you've all suffered clearly enough with bad taste, liking Drake. I'm one of you. Next question. Will there be any kind of danger to the engineer in case of bad component manipulation? Component blowing up in your face?
Well, the obvious one is if something overheats, it's part of the things that drives into the malfunctions or, the dangers popping up. So yeah, bad heat management, for example, could suddenly lead to, a power surge going through the ship and killing components, or fire starting in front of you, maybe setting you on fire if you're unfortunate. So yeah, to some degree, you can make things worse. You can always make things worse. But we're not going to insta-kill you just because, you punch at a component to fix it.
And actually, that's the good part of the entire change that will come, which is we are more item focused. So it is less like a dramatic death with the entire ship directly exposed. No, you will start losing items first, and then you might be dead in the water for a long time. until someone picks you up, and that is all the consequence. You're just dead in the water if the right components break at the right time.
That's the wrong component. This is a big part of Death of a Spaceman. A lot of people are worried about the idea of I'm going to say limited lives. It sounds worse than it is. A lot of people are worried about the idea of limited lives in this game, because of how much we die right now. Your ship just explodes. I mean, we have soft death, but that doesn't really do much. In the future, your ship will not explode. Like your ship will get ripped apart. It won't work. It will be just a floating husk, and you'll still be alive on the inside. Maybe, depending on what happens. So the idea of dying won't be as much. It still might be high, but these are one of those things to keep in mind when it comes to talking about Death of a Spaceman, stuff like that. The economy has a percentage of it controlled by CIG NPCs, not leaving it entirely to players controlling supply. Sure, but you'd still have to go and fly over to another place because somebody doesn't have titanium. And like, if you're missing a wing, I don't know if you guys have tried to fly into port right now while missing a wing on some ships, but that can be a huge thing you have to do to try and fly to another location just because somebody doesn't have titanium. Be dying a lot, far less than we do now at that point, yeah. The lives for an MMO have been around for decades. Okay. Dear future viewers, we had high hopes. We always do. All right, back to it.
It breaks at the wrong time. So if your quantum drive, for example, explodes because of a malfunction, that might have a consequence that is very similar to what we have right now, that the entire ship explodes.
So it can happen.
The power plant specifically. You know, soft death really, what it sort of models is either the power plant, died in a peaceful way, so to speak, or you lost your relays, something like that, which, you just lost power. What we currently have for big explosions is more like the reactor took a critical hit, it went, on its critical load, nobody did anything about it, it exploded.
I don't want to focus too much on this, but the idea that I could pull a component out and work on it and potentially catch a fire, and potentially cause a fire, rather, makes me think of the opportunities for sabotage.
It's something we thought about, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, since you can also damage the components with FPS weapons, and obviously you can just take out the fuses or even small components, you can steal them all together. There's a lot of damage a person hiding inside your ship could do.
And I'm just thinking about this. A lot of Star Citizens, have come from a game like EVE Online or something where it's you pretend to be somebody's friend, you become a member of their crew. In the course of a mission, slowly pulling components out and tuning them incorrectly to cause malfunction. It's like there's a whole gameplay opportunity there that's exciting.
See, I feel like that kind of stuff's going to make me a lot less trusting in this game. But that's kind of why I think it would count less me. I think that's why it's important to have an org in your back pocket. Not one that you always have to play with, but one that when you're going to need help doing something in game. Because we all might play this as a single player game, but at some point, you might want to do something that requires 2 people or 3, That could be using a certain type of vehicle or trying a certain type of mining expedition. I don't know. It's just there's always a chance you might need more people. So having an org in your back pocket that is held accountable to the same rules that isn't going to screw you over like he's describing, I think is going to help quite a bit. Speaking of which, I see Tyrus in chat, almost like I just summoned him. I mentioned the org, and here he is. Join GII himself. How you doing, man? Thank you for the memberships in YouTube chat. I appreciate it. The support goes very far for us. Thank you. And pushes us towards our goal for the day. Appreciate you. There needs to be some consequence, otherwise Death of a Spaceman has no purpose. Yeah. It is a great day. How you doing, Tyrus? Fuel Rats were an incredible organ elite. Really think something like that could do really well in SC once we have the ships and systems in place. People are trying to do it. A lot of people are trying to call themselves, this type of Fuel Rats of Elite Danger or of Star Citizen and stuff like that. Yo, Abdi, thank you for the sub. This is why you're in GII. Can't be active like you used to be, but it's nice to be there. I always appreciate you jumping in, man. I like seeing you in chat, Abdi. I hope that we get to play in game a little bit more often. But having, and you don't have to have just one org. You can have orgs specialize in different things, but making sure that there's a group of people that you can rely on is, I think, going to be important for this game. And the sooner you get in, the better, because you can build some of those bonds, find more friends. I personally know nobody from real life who plays this game, so I've made all my friends that way.
I think with the last system, we have a very good counter for that, which is, once you find a guy, you can just throw them out of an airlock.
Let's see. With ship life support, will opening doors automatically cycle airlocks to minimize wasted oxygen in the atmosphere?
No.
Yeah, like if there's an airlock, airlocks work like an airlock is supposed to work. They will actually cycle in, probably ideally in a smart way. If there's good air outside and good air inside, no need to cycle. But in most cases, the airlock will behave as a real-world airlock suit. On the other side, if you open the door of, let's say, you open the cargo bay of an H2 while you're in space, well, there goes your air.
Yeah.
But not all ships are ideal for all scenarios. Some of them are, have these EVA suit lockers, and they have these double airlocks and, particular paths to get to space, which are safe. In others, they are not really that good for that. Obviously, you can always bend your ship so you don't lose the air, but that also comes with its own challenges. Your engineer or whoever is on the console needs to manage it properly. So that's also where part of the ship roles will come in, which are better built for certain scenarios versus others.
Yeah. You don't want to add too much automation to it, because you want to leave the agency in the hands of the players, and to be both good at managing it and to be bad. That's a certain agency too. Like some people like being bad at Star Citizen.
Yeah.
On David.
Yeah, we cannot make it too safe, else you don't get hurt and it's not funny on YouTube.
Will we need to memorize ship layouts, or will we have the ability to target subsystems as well as our point of impact directly? Or will that require more advanced scanners or dedicated scout ships like the Terrapin or Hornet Tracker to allow sharing this information across the wing of ships? So basically, is there a reward for the more that you personally understand the layouts of ships and where to shoot and where these components are for bullet penetration and stuff?
See, now,
or is the scanner system just...
Let's see what they're going to say about this. But again, this is going back to that idea of some people do want to study the game to play it well. Some people want to memorize the layout of a ship so that they can be the absolute best hammerhead engineer there is out there. So there's this scale of, the game will have these naturally occurring things that you need to study. I feel like maybe they should also include some in the features that they're making too.
Gonna take it all for us.
Well, we're going to have subcomponent targeting. It kind of exists in some form in the game, but it's not really...
I think Yogi showed it even at CitizenCon.
Yeah, actually, for the turrets, obviously, it will also be used for stuff like, try to hit the power plant or try to hit any other internal component. At the same time, yes, if you know it, if you know where each ship's components are, you already know where to shoot. Obviously, the targeting helps you, but anything you bother to learn or any experience you have is always going to be superior, I think. Yeah. Especially when it comes back, you mentioned sabotage. In that case, your use of scanners is a bit more limited, and knowing exactly where you need to go, how to deal the most damage, it's always a good skill to have.
We talked a little bit about scanners and anti-scanners last week with the FPS and flight teams and stuff. And Chris has always maintained throughout the course of this project's development that there will be counters to all of these technologies. It's like as you develop scanning, you also develop jammers and stuff. And it's like if I've got a level 2 scanner, then my scanner can overcome a level 1 jammer. But if they've got a level 3 jammer, then my level 2 scanner is going to have some trouble until I go and swap it out.
Your gold elite scanner level 6 is too powerful for my beginner level 3 scanner counter scanner hacker guy. I wonder how much they would actually get into that. But they talked about this with the FPS stuff too, with scanning and ping and being able to block those things. That's the one thing we've never seen. We've always seen the features, but we don't really see the counters except for I think with ships you can turn off your ship to get rid of emissions, and you can hide behind things to avoid cross-section scans. But like they've really not dove much into that realm. And that's been the most disappointing thing for me, because like exploration and data and all that stuff is what I've been waiting for. So I do hope that they start to get more into this soon.
Level 4 scanner, this constant kind of, escalation that happens in the real world. So yeah, if you find yourself, jammed and whatnot, you can't target stuff. If you do know this stuff, if you do know, I'm very familiar with the Connie Phoenix, and I know that the big central relay is right around here, and the damage system, the full damage system is online with proper penetration and everything, and you can draw fire on that. You'll be rewarded for that kind of information.
We even had that already in our demo, right? So we have a faked penetration there, and because we knew where we need to shoot, we could potentially target the power plant.
And ships have weak points, not necessarily made on purpose, but simply of the way they're built. The hull is not the same thickness in all places. The ship components, are not distributed evenly. So knowing, if your weapon can make it through the hull and the sails, and that on that particular part of the ship, it's easier to hit the components. That's all. I think that's always a win. Something good to practice and learn.
It's going to be interesting to see how that affects pilots and the way they fly too, knowing where your weak spots are and learning to not expose them during combat and stuff. It's got a lot. The resource management system has a lot of knock-ons to many aspects of gameplay. It's
and actually, that is what we're all looking forward to, right? So we really want this, that maneuvering and knowing your ship well gives you an advantage over you don't care about your ship.
For single crew vehicles, how will the pilot be notified that components need to be addressed?
Well, your ship will be on fire.
That works.
No, but it's currently you already have. With the new MFDs, you're going to have probably a better display. You already know that you have this like little picture of your ship in the MFD, and you say when you get hit, you see the the red mark, and the components slowly go red from blue. That's going to be part of it. Obviously, you also get the messages. I think if you play in the game right now, we already have the first set of misfires. These are the old ones, the seal failure or thruster surge, stuff like that.
Yeah. So this is a good chance for us to go. Let's open up the history books. Yeah. This is a feature they've been working on for a while. If you go back to I think 3.4, 3.3. Yeah. Look at that. Ship system degradation. Functionality for upgradable ship components, implementing wear and degradation causing reduced performance. This is the Terrapin, and this is the first ship they introduced us with. For any of you who remember how old the Terrapin is, that's back when they started making this stuff happen in games. So 2018, we started getting ship system degradation, and the patch before item 2.0 introduced power allocation, which was the previous pipe system, which is how they've mentioned they're upgrading the pipe system to the resource management system. So this read, functionality for ship components allowing for weapons and other items to overheat and be overclocked, as well as the ability to configure shield generators, power plants, weapons, and other systems to meaningfully affect ship performance. So what we have right now allows you to do this. For anybody who hasn't dipped into their power systems, you can change the way that power affects your components. You can shut them down, you can run them on stealth, you can lower your emissions. This is all existent in game, but it's never really been that important. So, it's not many people are really caring that much. As time went on, they introduced a couple other components to this, the heat system, improvements to the system to provide more systemic experiences, covering a variety of issues and their effects on the vehicles, from how heat affects various components in a ship to incorporating heat values into the room system. This also defined ambient heat from solar systems. So we see this again when you're in your spacesuit and you look at your HUD, the temperature is always changing. That's kind of what this is about. This is also meant to add degradation to ship parts. I think I might actually have a couple of clips from that from back in the day. But ultimately, this never made that big a difference to the game. You probably notice this most when you get a torque imbalance, and that's your system not being able to properly power itself. So it's not like these are necessarily straight up new things, but as he's mentioning in the video and as you can see here, they are things that have existed in some way, so they've been moving in this direction. You got version 2 of degradation here, which also came with misfires, as he's talking about, and you might see this on your ship with thrusters. Sometimes they'll just stop thrusting, which is unfortunate considering their role. But yeah, that is kind of the history of where they've been so far with getting these sorts of things in, and the heat system and the thruster misfires and all that. It's there, but it hasn't been meant to matter as much yet, and it's starting to, especially with this engineering update.
You're gonna keep seeing that. That's also part of the new system. They are triggered, using the new logic, but they're still the same effects. But yeah, in general, it's going to be mostly that, because as a pilot, you have very limited, on a single seat fighter, you have very limited action you can take against that. Obviously, you have your triangle capacitor, wheel. You can, put more power to the seals if your things are getting hit. But at the end of the day, if you are losing a cooler or something like that, other than turning off items altogether, there's really not a lot you can do, which is, the weak point of fighters. They don't really have that staying power in the end.
I realized I didn't show you guys the misfires. This is what they look like generally. You can see it here on the cutter. You get that kind of stuff, and then here on the Gladius, you can see it. So this stuff's in game. You can trigger it. Just got to do some damage.
Almost done. We've got time for maybe 3 or 4 questions, and then we'll let you go. Is the life support system in a room also tied to a fuse that can break? So I might lose access to controlling a room's atmosphere and be forced to go deal with the fire personally instead of just venting it.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's even a bit more than just that the life support itself is connected to a relay. It's like each room has a vent that is then connected to its own relay. So it might even be that if a relay is destroyed or not connecting to the vent anymore, that you just lose connection to one of the rooms. Whereas, like, if you hit the life support cannot provide the rooms anymore. So that would be a total failure. But there's the concept of the vents that are sitting in each room, and they control the composition of the room, the temperature of the room. So if that then the vent loses the connection, you lose the control over that room, and you have to go in there or go to the relay, fix the relay, so that you have the control over the room again, or you go directly into the room to fix what broke there.
Yeah, or you could just open a door, or I guess a window.
Or open a door.
It can be dangerous in space, but you can do that.
Actually, that is also a good counter. So because what the question was before, like, do we automatically cycle? No, and that helps there, right? So you can open the door to the room that is currently not connected anymore and make then oxygen flow from one room to the other, or even vent the other room so that the room that is currently on fire, you don't have any control anymore, is then venting the other room with itself so that you can deplete the fire there.
Instructions unclear. My spaceship exploded. I needed more than that. Maverick, thank you for the sub. Adam, how you doing? Welcome in.
Support. Where does the air come from? Is it stored in tanks, or does the life support component take electricity and simply generate air?
Yeah, well, that is an open discussion right now. So it might change. So as of now, we have a tank that stores the atmosphere that you have in your rooms. So if you have a room, let's take an example with one room, and you want to vent that room. We don't vent the atmosphere in that room outside. We vent it into an auxiliary storage so that you don't lose it, because we see the atmosphere as a finite resource, and you should really care about your atmosphere in space because it's a precious resource, right? And so you vent it into the storage, so you have the room now completely empty with the atmosphere, and if you decide to fill the room again, it is taking the atmosphere from that storage back in. Sure, we also thought about, okay, what happens when you accidentally vent it? So we have some auxiliary atmosphere sticks that you can put in, and then we, by chemical reaction, magically create an atmosphere for that room or for the rooms of the ship. But the idea is that you always have these storage that you have to manage. So you fill it because and you have this concrete finite amount of atmosphere on your ship that you have to manage.
Yeah, and we also separate it along that way in the sense that there are tanks for oxygen and inert gases, but also for waste gases that we don't want in the atmosphere at all. There's different tanks. So yeah, managing it also limits how quickly you can get rid of good or bad air in both cases.
But also a nice way to catch atmospheres, actually, like if you lost, you did mismanagement and your auxiliary tanks are empty and you're like breathing through your suit and you're depleting the oxygen from your suit. So what you can do is go into an atmosphere of a planet, open all the doors, and then suddenly all the atmosphere rushes in. You close the doors and go up again.
You just oxygen scoop. That's fun. This is going to make, I mean, like Echo said in chat, oxygen and water is super important for space sims. So we're seeing that just start now. But I imagine this is going to be part of salvage. So you'll be able to siphon off oxygen and water from other ships. This will be part of, I guess, just straight up stealing from other ships. This will be part of espionage. Just gameplay surrounding oxygen and water is going to be cool to see expand, given, you know, our ships are becoming more floating areas of resources rather than just a ship that like has an on and off mode. You know, you walk through the doorway and even if the door is open in space, you're still good and dandy. It's going to change.
You just have to make sure that the atmosphere of the planet is actually breathable. But that is also a valid way to fill your ship back with atmosphere.
It's kind of like, I'm imagining those cans of Perrier from Spaceballs.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. I think 2 questions left. How often will we encounter malfunctions and fires in normal gameplay? This question comes up after every
time, and every time it's the same answer. It's like fresh ships, very unlikely for any malfunctions. There might be some that are happening, but very minor ones. So you can even ignore them and live with them. But like if you have a ship that has several hundred hours and like the wear and tear is really, really low or really, really high, then you have to maintain it more often.
Yeah.
But we really want to make sure that it is not like annoying for players. Like we really, but this is something that we will balance once we have it out there and players give us feedback on it.
Yeah, it's really more about, for the long-term maintenance, it's more about some items being a bit less, I say, reliable. If you keep using it, it's kind of a way of telling you, hey, use something new. And you know, with salvage and all the ways you have to get components, it's not that hard. Or you know, you have to pay more attention to your components. But stuff like fires or anything really critical that is crippling, you're not, your ship is not going to randomly burst into flames. That's more of a consequence of damage control. You're in a fight, you take a direct hit to a relevant component, you get an electrical fire. But so you shouldn't expect that to be cruising around Stanton and suddenly, 3.
I love how they're like, yeah, we're going to balance this when it's in game and we'll make sure this is all good. But by now they've gotten so many like foreshadowing complaints from us about like, how much is this going to affect us? Is our ship going to be terrible to fly? Like they're probably like, okay, so we've balanced this so it basically does nothing. And then we will move from there. He even said it there. He's like, yes, we get this every time. Yes, every single time I'm in camera. Thurston's just like, oh my God, I want this feature to come out so people stop asking me how much it affects them.
Your rooms are on fire and you die.
But we also want to reward player choices there. That is, if you decide to like run your ship only with 20% of the performance it could run in, like have the power plant always run at 20%. So basically underpower your ship. That also has an impact on the malfunction rate. So the less you push your ship, the more likely it is that there won't be any malfunctions. But also the other way, like if you are in a combat scenario and you like want more than 100% out of your ship items, sure, that will dramatically increase the chances for malfunctions.
Pretty logic based.
Is there an RNG factor in this though?
Yeah, sure.
Is it conceivable that somebody's just going to have a really bad string of luck?
Yeah, but it's dependent on the wear and tear and it's the health of the item. So we have parameters that make it, gives us more control over when these are happening. But sure, there will be some RNG.
Yeah, for some of them, it's the conditions are more like thresholds. You are overheating by this amount. You have the power throttle over this amount. So we know you're pushing your ship. At that point, we start rolling dice from time to time, where either nothing happens or one of the maybe minor malfunctions happens, or the moderate ones happen. For other cases, we just want to say, based on the wear and tear, even at that point it has to be very, very rare in the sense that yes, we do it randomly, but maybe the mean time is supposed to be days or something like that. Simply like it could happen, but we know.
Is there a more anticipated feature than this in terms of the fear people have about it affecting the game? Have we had a bigger deal thing? I think the change for the inventory system coming in was a fairly big one. The idea that people didn't have, like, they could just get everything from anywhere. But I don't know if there's another one that people have been so worried about that has come into the game finally. Not even, soft death now. Insurance? Yeah, insurance isn't even really in the game yet. You say Death of a Spaceman? Yeah, those are still coming though. I'm talking about anything that they have actually brought into the game yet. That's been like this. Master modes? Certainly has generated a lot of debate, Master modes has. But yeah, I think when we see Death of a Spaceman, it will be a similar idea in the way that people are like talking about it. But I don't think there's been anything in the game so far that has been quite as big a topic of discussion for the whole community. And it's interesting. I wonder how this is going to go down. Yo, Execute, how's it going? Thanks for having me on earlier today, by the way, Execute. I mean, obviously, Inforunners, I am part of it, but appreciate you scheduling them out so I can hop on for IAE. Folks, check out Inforunners if you are interested in learning more about IAE and CCUs and ship stuff. We just put out a video about that today, about the new mining ship. Bathroom. Town Scott, the bathroom. People are really scared of crewing large capital ships now because of this, but they don't forget player rating systems and AI. Yeah, reputation will help a lot. Landing pad or station should take care of this. Yeah. It's going to be just like refining. You could go to a station to get refining, or you could have somebody with a ship do it. Claim timers. I feel like it's a small minority of large ship owners that imagine the worst case scenario where they need to repair something every 10 meters. I think most people who are worried seem to be the single seat people. Because this is something that's more focused on capital and larger ships, even medium-sized ships. But I think the people who see themselves as a solo player who doesn't want to have an engineer around, who just wants to fly their own ship, I think that's who's getting worried by this. But the way that they're talking about it, like you said, just when you get to a space station, repair your ship, and you should be good. Plan on bed logging when it becomes available while you explore the verse. Bed logging could be another pretty big one. But, yeah, I've not seen this much intensive discussion on a feature like this before. Interesting.
I'm more interested in the player choice aspect. Overheating, running your ship at overclock all the time, stuff like that, which we think is more like, the cost for that choice you made.
I get you. Last question, and normally we avoid when questions and stuff like that, just because we've been talking about resource management engineering for about 13 months now since we first introduced it at CitizenCon last year. There's a lot coming to Star Citizen in 2024. At CitizenCon, we did 2 days worth of look at all this stuff. A big chunk of the Squadron team is coming back to the PU. They're bringing all the work, or much of the work rather, that they've developed along with them. This was always the plan since we had Rich Tyrer on a SCL 2 years ago saying that they were switching this priority. We used to go PU and then into Squadron, and we were switching the priority to go Squadron and then into PU, for most of our feature stuff. We're now 2024 is now where we're going to see the big reaping of rewards of that technology, and everybody's very hyped for it, and appropriately so. Resource Network not being one of those things that was developed in Squadron and brought over. Oh,
well, actually, for the CitizenCon, since Squadron had a requirement of to have the resource network.
Okay.
So because we want to get rid of the old pipe system, we actually move it from the P, well, not from the PU, but from our feature stream to Squadron 42. We did all the development that was done for the CitizenCon, the UI, and the actually tying it to fires, fixing up the live support, all of that was done in the Squadron 42 stream. So in a way, it's actually
so even this, okay.
So in a way, it's actually coming back too.
All right. So okay, then the question is even more appropriate. What kind of time frame are we shooting for? Don't look into the camera and be like, it will be in this. Nobody would be. I wouldn't believe.
Last time they talked about this, they told us it would be here possibly sooner than we think. I wonder if what do you guys think?
If you said that, but we have targets. What are we shooting for? What's the? You kept saying not in the first iteration. What's this first iteration of resource management intended to look like, and when are we shooting?
So we are targeting Q2 next year with the release of live support, fire, and the engineering gameplay. So the base resource.
I'm
network.
surprised he's actually giving an internal target. They basically just put an item on the roadmap. I mean, we have our release view, and we can see up until, we can't even see our next 2 updates, right? We can only see our Q4 update of this year. So when 3.22 comes out, we won't see our 3.23 patch until probably February, I think, because they'll need all January to kind of plan out what's actually going to go into that. A lot of Squadron stuff is coming over. They've got a lot of meetings in January that they take a break at the end of December. So I wouldn't expect to see the new patch show up immediately, but maybe it will. We'll see. But essentially, they just put 3.24 or 4.0, I don't know, whatever it's going to be at that time. They just put the Q2 patch on the map, on the roadmap. Scary. Don't hold them to it, but that's solid that we'll get it by then. It's definitely not sooner than I thought we'd get it when they first told us about it earlier this year, but Q2 this year would be cool. I expect to see it by CitizenCon then, hopefully.
Fire and the engineering gameplay, so the base resource network with all the base functionality. So that will have also the repair beam with it, the item functionality that we showcased in the demo. So basically everything that you saw in the demo, that is the plan for Q2.
Awesome. Torsten, thank you so much. I'll let you get back to work. I know you've got that big go to get to. I appreciate you taking a little time for us and being over here. We're gonna come back with a dear friend of mine, Jeff Zanelli, composer of many motion pictures and composer of Squadron 42. We're going to talk a little bit about him. Let a whole bunch of our community meet him for the very first time since we haven't had him on in so many years. And during that switchover, we had you may have seen the post-credits gag in yesterday's ISC. We originally had something else in that slot. Tom, who is one of the partners that we make Inside Star Citizen with, is the world's largest Stevie Ray Vaughan fan. And every time we were shooting those SRV interviews, he continuously was asking people, do you know who Stevie Ray Vaughan is? And he was very disappointed in that so many of our developers unfortunately did not. Do you guys know who Stevie Ray Vaughan is? Yeah, see that's what he was running at, and he was so frustrated with this. He went and personally recorded his own little guitar riff and outro, celebrating the majesty of Stevie Ray Vaughan, tremendous blues player that he was. We booted it out of yesterday's episode in order to showcase my dumb thing, but I promised him that we would showcase it here. So we'll be right back, and until then, enjoy just a little brief taste of Stevie Ray Vaughan by way of Tom, our cinematographer.
The Argo SRV, I'd say, is my pride and joy.
as we get into the discussion, I'm going to go ahead and play some Jeff Zanelli in the background. You might recognize some of his music from Star Citizen. That is not Jeff Zanelli. This is whatever they chose.
I'm composer Jeff Zanelli. I wrote the music for Squadron.
That is literally Jeff Zanelli. I'm in the music.
Squadron 42, and I want to talk to you about something very close to my heart. This is the soundtrack album. And
I remember this.
I just want to go over a few highlights. First piece I wrote for Squadron 42 is called Coil Commanders. Actually, my nickname in college. That's where I got that.
Wait, did he do the music?
I hope you like saxophones. We have another one, Admiral Bishop's Tax Return. You're not going to believe when you find this part in game what's actually going on in this story. It's there's a lot of money laundering subplots and lots of paperwork and stuff in the game, and so I wanted to make sure there was like a paperwork theme, because I know a lot of people care deeply about taxes, tax returns, and Admiral Bishop. So we found a way of combining all of those things. Got another one. We've got Single Player at Night. It's about Jared's love life. Hope you like saxophones. I do. I hope you like saxophones. Oh, here's a good one.
God.
40 seconds of food transportation. Bagel carrier. You're gonna want that. I was thinking really, really hard about what I should name this piece, and I decided on Intense Space Action. Those are the 3 words, the 3 important words. I hope you like saxophones. The other thing, pimp your spaceship!
I don't like saxophones, Jeff. I like bagpipes. I feel like somebody must have left a comment on this video back when they shot this, and they were like, screw your saxophones. I need more fabric. Give me bagpipes. And so he was like, all right, let's do this. And now we're all Scottish. We're like all half Scottish in the music brain, and I love it. It's a beautiful song.
That's right. That's you guys were asking me about space radio. Pimp Your Spaceship is the new hit. Gillian Anderson is in this. I wrote a song about that. Oh, I'm supposed to talk about the F-8 Lightning, I think. Is that right? Oh, right. Sorry. No spoilers. No spoilers. Okay. I mean, I already talked about the tax return. Okay, no, that's okay. Colonel Blair's funeral. Ay. What else can we do? And I hope you like saxophones. Some of you have heard my piece, Vertical Slice. Wait till you hear Horizontal Slice. Oh, that was so bad. So there it is, the Squadron 42 soundtrack. You can buy it in any format you want, as long as it's CD. I'm Jeff Zanelli, composer for Star Citizen, Squadron 42, and I approve this CD.
I'm not gonna lie. I feel like Horizontal Slice should be, oh man, I might make a little joke out of this and post it on Twitter and tag him or something. I feel like Horizontal Slice is what we just got from the I Held the Line trailer. Like, we saw Vertical Slice in 2017. Now we got Horizontal Slice, and oh my god, it was so much better. Yeah, he's still around. He was at CitizenCon.
Love those fresh air canisters. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. That was a brief skit from the old Reverse the Verse live days with our next guest, composer Jeff Zanelli. Jeff Zanelli is the composer for Squadron 42, and we haven't had him on the show for several years. Since then, we've garnered about 2 million new Star Citizens who maybe have never met him, never seen him, so we thought we'd take this opportunity with Hold the Line and CitizenCon.
See if I timed this music right.
And introduce him to folks who maybe haven't heard of him, and revisit for those who have been following his tremendous work. So Jeff, welcome to the show, everybody. Right?
Time that music perfectly.
Thanks for bringing me back.
Everybody, geez.
It has indeed been a minute, but it's great to see you again, Jared.
You know, it's with pre-tape. You'd think I'd stop this and redo it, but no, we're just going to leave that in. It's still Star Citizen Live, even though it's pre-tape. I just called Jeff, everybody. Jeff, thank you for being here. I want to talk a little bit. I want to introduce you first to our Star Citizen and Squadron 42 community. Tell us who you are and what you do.
Sure. Well, I'm Jeff Zanelli. I write music.
Holmes, is that an Emmy? Or no, Grammy for music? Pretty sure it's an Academy Award in the back there.
Video games,
I think
for
he has
films,
2.
for television, for all sorts of different visual media. I mean, I guess that's been me in a nutshell for many, many years. So Yeah, that's it. I'm writing the score for Squadron 42, which is a epic journey in and of itself. Let's put it that way.
So how'd you get into the industry? Usually in these kind of get to know me segments, we usually cover. I'm always amazed. Like many people can do almost anything with their lives. Why in the world did they choose this? So that's basically my question to you. Why in the world did you choose music composition?
No, it turns out that I can't do many things with my life. I can do only this with my life. And I say it facetiously, but it is actually kind of true. This is my one skill. But
did anybody else watch the CW Flash series on YouTube and is slightly getting some Reverse Flash vibes from him? Just like a little bit. I feel like I can see it. I don't know. Could you just me?
But I always wanted to do this, though. So I became a musician pretty late in life compared to most musicians that I know. I was 1 week shy of my 16th birthday when I got a guitar, and that was what kind of started the journey. But very, very quickly realized it was going to be a career. Music, anyway, was going to be my career, and that I wanted to be able to write and change styles and change, genres all the time, and that sort of naturally draws you into film music and media music, games, and you look at the expanse of the types of projects I get to do, and it's very, very different from being in a band. And plus, you couple that with I don't really like getting in a sweaty bus and traveling across the country with 5 other people. So I was never going to be in a band. It was not for me. But I don't know that I chose it. I think it really was sort of the only thing that I really could see myself spending my life doing once I got even reasonably good at playing a guitar. It was like, no, this is the path. So.
I'm genuinely envious of that when I hear folks who have that kind of clarity of vision and purpose. I worked 37 places before I landed here. And even here,
Holy
I'm
crap.
on my 6th title, and my responsibilities through here have vacillated and changed dramatically.
Wow, that's wild. Wait, has anybody else had that kind of stretch? I've worked, I guess if you count football reffing, then I've worked at 4 places, technically. Right? Yeah. 36 places, that's a lot of side gigs. Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're freelancing and kind of finding what works. How about you guys? How have you spread that out? Because that's hefty. Stressful for me. I have to stay at a place longer than that. Yeah, Tom Cavanaugh is I think the name. That's game development though. Was he in game development before CIG? I actually didn't know that. You work 16 different jobs. Whew. I hope one of them is a favorite. You're in 3 different countries as a freelancer. A lot of travel, huh? Been in game development a long time. I actually didn't know that. Good to know. 9 places over the years. IT folks tend to move around a lot. Do you keep the same job as you move, or you're switching jobs every time? 3 jobs in the past 16 years. Yeah, luckless. That's the direction I'm going in. I think me and Mrs. Tomato are going to be pretty much holding our same. We're going to be at the same company for the rest of our lives. If you didn't, that's Space Tomato Gaming, by the way. It's a bit of a joke. He used to work for World of Warcraft. Really? Huh. Software industry can be fairly rough. A lot of people change jobs to get big raises, otherwise you get stuck. I get that. Yeah, that's a good way to move up. Just get out of that job, because they'll just hold you there, right? And then you leave and they give somebody else the job for higher pay. 7 or 8 in your life, 3 in professional career. Cool. Vast in it was same job moving up. Okay, I got you. Yeah, we've all got different spreads. 36 is a lot. Good for him. I'm glad he's found one that he really likes and has got to stick with for a while. He's doing a great job at it.
I've been here. I never knew what I wanted to do because I wanted to do everything.
Right. I definitely had that clarity of focus. That's exactly the way to put it. It was a drive, and but I guess on the downside is that I got my last promotion when I was like 21. I became composer, and that I shall remain, I guess.
So, so you've decided to become a composer. Where'd you start? Did you start in television? Did you go straight to motion pictures?
Oh, right. So, yeah, no, okay. I went off to Berklee College of Music, which is in Boston, and I studied there. They had an engineering production track, and they had a film scoring track, which is now called media scoring. But at the time, it was focused on film and television. It was actually kind of before games was even really an industry that you could consistently work in. I mean, I'm talking about the early 90s. This was like the beginning of game composer as a full-time, calling. So, but when I finished at Berklee, I started interning. Actually, even while I was at Berklee, I would come out in the summers to LA and I would intern for Hans Zimmer, who is a film composer. He was writing the Lion King score when I first met him. To put a date on it, I think that's 1994. Mm-hmm. And I was his intern until I graduated Berklee a couple years later. And then I came out and worked for another composer who worked at Hans's studio named John Powell. That was really the first job that I had. I was his assistant, John's. And I did that for 3 years. And then I got my last promotion. I went freelance and became composer. So that would have been right around 99 or 2000 is when I went freelance as a composer. And if you look at my credits, you'll see I worked as what's called an additional music composer on John's movies, which means maybe I do a couple of the scenes here and there, but he was largely responsible for the score. Then I did that for Hans on a number of projects. And I suppose the notable kind of breakout project like that for me was the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie, where it was written rather quickly. I think we had 2 or 3 weeks to write the whole score. So it was Hans and a team of like 8 or 9 composers, of which I guess I sort of moved to the head of the class, so to speak, on the project. And that was I want to take a hold on.
I want to look at. I don't know if I actually know any of his work super well. Let's see movies. Let's see, Pirates of the Caribbean. I do know those movies. Did he do the whole thing for these? Where does it say that? Pirates of the Caribbean composer. Come on, Google. So it was both of them on that. Interesting. I wonder which song specifically he did. This man wrote the score for Outlander, Chris Roberts' weird Space Beowulf movie. There's a Space Beowulf movie? It's an interesting way to describe a movie. Did Disturbia. Okay. I liked that one. Hitman movie. Love a good video game movie. Another Pirates of the Caribbean. Christopher Robin. He talks about it. Oh god, not that movie. Which one? The Hitman? Wikipedia has a good breakdown of what he's worked on and with who. Okay, cool. Oh no, you're talking about the Space Beowulf movie, right? Some good stuff though, very well-known stuff.
The real Jeff Zanelli as composer story, I guess.
You mean a giant, humongous AAA big budget motion picture like Pirates of the Caribbean only gave you 2 to 3 weeks to compose the score?
Yes, that's an unusual circumstance.
Okay.
But yes,
you don't need all the Hollywood tea. Don't ruin your career by spilling.
Love Hollywood tea.
No. I think it's sort of well established. People know there was another composer on the project before, and that's what happened. So I get a call from Hans, who is now the second composer. The movie was on the final mix stage already. They were already doing the final mix, and they didn't have a score. And Hans called me on a Saturday and said, "You need to get to the studio." Right. I almost did a Hans Zimmer impression, and then I thought better of it. I used my own voice. So you got to get to the studio and watch this movie. We're starting right away. We're finishing in 3 weeks. You can't go to the Justin Timberlake concert. You're going to be working. And so I went to the studio with the whole gang, and it really was literally like Hans had this 5-minute piece of music he'd written overnight, and he gave it to all of us. And then it was like, we just need to start writing music. Just go. And I sort of loved the chaos of that. It was really like being in the eye of a hurricane. And
it's kind of funny when you realize that a lot of this stuff
you know,
you think has just so much like procedure and stuff behind it is actually just kind of slapdash put together.
Again, I had, I guess, that sort of clarity and focus. I was able to just put my head down and write music like crazy for those 3 weeks. And it's kind of nice to know when it stops. You know, I know when I get to sleep again. Until then,
By the way,
I will work.
If you're hearing the music in the background, this is him.
I didn't know. We had heard that story. We've chatted a few times. I didn't realize you'd worked with John Powell. John Powell was the Born Identity.
This is the intense space music he talked about at the beginning of the episode. I like it though. This actually gives me some Deus Ex combat vibes. But everything gives me Deus Ex vibes, let's be honest. I'm obsessed.
Short schedule. Not quite as bad as Pirates, but so we needed someone right away to just kind of be there and run, you know, largely tech support. I was loading samplers and getting there early in the morning and make sure everything was working so we could sit down and work right away. And
hey, you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, that was, but I loved it. Oh my, that's the thing. It's like someone let me in the studio door and I just never wanted to leave. And you know, that was, it still doesn't really feel like work, you know. I mean, of course it is, but
yeah, I get you. I get you.
Yeah.
So okay. So obviously you've begun a healthy film career. Eventually something breaks in your brain and you say, I want to do video games.
No, well, I always did though. It's funny because I mean I'm a gamer with Atari roots, right? Like that's where it started for me. So I'm like the old generation of video gamers. But I think in a way the 90s is really kind of the perfect time to illustrate when video gaming music got super serious. Do you know what I mean? Like that was when you started to hear fully orchestral scores. It was like for a minute there.
Dude, who hasn't heard Halo
were
CE's
promoting
theme
themselves
song?
as, you know, oh, we have a full Hollywood sounding score. And nowadays, I don't see that type of promotion because I think the games industry is recognized very clearly we're doing our own thing now. Do you know what I mean? Like it's a genre, and it's actually very different in some ways from film and television, which is also, it's almost like a third career. I'm a little bit lucky I get to do all three of those things, but some composers, you know, they excel in games or they excel in television or they excel in film, but not the others. So I don't know. I was always built in the way that I wanted to spread out and do something different. And, you know, the conversation I have with my agent all the time is what I want to do next is something totally different from whatever I finished, whatever that means. So I'm not necessarily the composer that's going to do only superhero movies or only sci-fi video games or only horror movies. You know, I love that I get to just go all over the place. That's probably why it doesn't feel like work. I still feel like I'm playing around a lot.
Oh, yeah, that's great. What are some of the video game scores people might recognize from you?
Wow, let's see. So Squadron 42 far and away the biggest video game credit, but I think it's probably the biggest video game credit for anyone.
Oh.
So that goes.
Yeah, I mean, if you were going to be a composer for a game, it'd be cool if it was the one that everybody said, you know, maybe it won't be by the time it comes out, but everybody said was the most expensive game ever made, all that jazz. So, you know, like, yeah, and they hired me.
I worked on an EverQuest Champions of Norath, which was a kind of a spin-off. It was not a persistent universe. I worked on one of the Shrek games.
Oh, nice.
And then I worked on a series of
Shrek.
Call of Duty games, which was for the NDS. So that was, you know, this Call of Duty with the stylus and everything. It was really, they were pretty wild, but it was fun because they had their own identity separate from the, I guess, the mainline Call of Duty games. But I think, you know, it's not lost on me that Squadron 42 is the peak of my video game career thus far. Well, or probably ever.
Well,
don't sell yourself short.
What we've heard so far has been stellar. We're going to get to that in a second. So let's talk about how you got hooked up with Chris and Squadron 42. Where did that come from? I know, was it from your work on Outlander, or
yes?
Okay,
that's exactly right. Yeah. So hopefully, I wonder if everybody knows. Chris made a very, very cool movie called Outlander. Gosh, 15 years ago now, maybe, or close to it, which was a kind of a take on the Beowulf story, but set in Viking times with I guess you'd say a spaceman, an alien man.
Hey, I mean, if it was a scary movie, this ain't so bad. Schizophrenic in subject and lackluster in execution, Outlander might have found trouble finding the cult audience for which it was built. Joke's on you, buddy. We're here. I actually don't know. Beowulf in space is a very interesting premise, though. You guys seen this one before? When did this come out? 2009? So he produced. He didn't direct. So he's just producing. Wonder how involved he was as a producer. Oh, you thought it was a series. When a spacecraft crashes in Norway during the Iron Age, two figures emerge from the wreckage. Kanan and an alien soldier, and Morwen, his mortal enemy. Wow. Sucks to be on a ship with that person. The latter immediately starts cutting a path of destruction through the Norse lands, while Kanan sees a chance to meld his advanced technology with ancient Viking weaponry to destroy Morrowind before it destroys Earth. Sounds lovely. Wow, he looks kind of like a young George Clooney. Well, interesting. Sounds fun. Let's hear how he got from that to Squadron.
Crashes to Earth and brings the monster with him, basically. And then
he's literally describing the thing I just read. My bad.
Technology has to go fight this high-tech monster. It's quite cool. It's a monster movie. It's really fun. It's a multi-genre sort of sci-fi fantasy thing, which is like exactly in the world of what I want to do. And I actually met Chris through, I would have been brought onto that project. Let's see, maybe I met Howard McCain, who directed it, and then I met with Chris and John Schimmel, who produced, and so we made a movie together. I mean, it really started that way. And I think really what happened then was Chris said, I'm making Star Citizen, and it's going to be split into really two worlds. And we have the PU, which everyone's been playing for years now. And we have Squadron 42, which is narrative, different very much story-wise from the PU. In the PU, the players are writing their own story. In Squadron 42, the player is involved in another bigger story that already exists. And that, I think, is what drew Chris to ask me about it, because it's very much designed to feel like you're moving through a very long, epic story. It's story driven, and that is, that's, I guess, the province of film composers. He recognized how I was able to tell his very complicated story in Outlander, and then, how that might expand out into the universe of Star Citizen, which is quite a big story to tell. So.
Yeah, and of course, Pedro Camacho is our wonderful composer for Star Citizen. You're the composer for Squadron 42. Do you guys ever get to chat? Do you ever get to share notes or meet at a convention or anything like that?
Yeah, well, we've never been in person together. Funny you mention it, but we Zoom every now and again just to kind of sync up with each other. Not necessarily to get the music to sort of, I don't know, cross-pollinate from one to the other. It's really not the goal. It's always been kind of separate identities, but we're both big supporters of each other's work, and I'm eternally jealous that Pedro's music is out in the world already, and you all get to hear it. That's why something like Hold the Line, which you were talking about, is a little glimpse into the enormous amount of work that I've already done on Squadron that won't come to light until
That's
people
insane. The music in that trailer is so good. Like, I would say there's an oversized reaction to watching that trailer of comments about the music. Like, in a normal game trailer, I would think that 99% of comments are about specifically the gameplay, maybe something about like the controversy of the game or just general opinions. But with the Held the Line trailer, there were a lot of comments that were only talking about the music, and I think that's I hope he got to see a lot of that and recognize that people are really liking what they're hearing from what's coming out so far. I can't wait for them to release that soundtrack. I'm gonna listen to that a lot.
You know, until we get it into the player's hands.
Right.
So Pedro gets a kind of a rolling delivery where every few months you all get to hear his new brilliant work. So
yeah.
So I just call him to tell him I'm jealous. That's
well. As Squadron 42 is now feature complete and moving into polish phase and stuff, I'm sure we'll have more and more opportunities for you and me to get together and share your music with the folks. Before we let you go, I want to talk about Hold the Line. Folks got to hear roughly 20-25 minutes of your Squadron 42 score. I know a lot of folks would ask, was that stuff just created expressly for the video, or is it actually representative of the game, of what you've done for the game? And I want to ask that question, and then add in a supplemental question: bagpipes, and then let you go.
Yes, bagpipes. Maybe I'm going to answer your questions in reverse order, because bagpipes is the order of the day. No, so it's funny. Okay, actually, that sequence which you do see, the opening, it's a cinematic in-game. So that music was written very specifically for that sequence, and everything obviously still work in progress. But I believe me, we're keeping the bagpipes. We experimented quite a lot with different instrumentation for the fleet reveal. Let me back it up, actually. Initially, that piece of music is written as a UEE theme. It actually functions sort of like, most of the world's navies have a theme song, right? The U.S. Navy, I think it's Eternal Father, Strong to Save. It's a hymn. Yeah. And so we started there. It was something Chris Roberts and I talked about. What if we had a hymn for the UEE Navy? Like, what would their theme be? And in fact, there's even very wide variations of this piece of music already getting used in various parts of the game. We only showed one little glimpse of it for Hold the Line, but that is a theme for the UEE, for the Navy as a whole, and it works in all sorts of ways. It can be very emotional, it can be very somber, it can be very triumphant, it can be officious, it can be used as score, it can be used, there's a set of lyrics actually written for it. So that's a piece of music that's gonna be heard many, many times throughout the game. But the fleet reveal is one of the first times you hear it, and I thought, well, what needs to happen here is it needs to be a piece of music that represents that the UEE is not one country or one ethnicity or one nation's purpose. It's the purpose of Earth. I mean, it's in the title, UEE. So the piece of music could represent really any culture and all culture from anywhere on the Earth, because here we are united in defense of our planet. So it meant we could go exploring instrumentation, anything really, anything that has the right grandeur for the moment. And so there was an orchestral version of that sequence that played nicely, but maybe felt, I don't know, not bespoke enough to the sequence. And once we got to the bagpipes, and there's also taiko drums from Japan, and there's some drums from South America, and so it actually is a combination of many cultures, to represent, this is our fleet, this is the gathering that we have put together to defend the planet. I realize that's a lofty goal for a 10-second piece of music, but this is the type of ambition.
I was gonna say, we're no strangers to ambition here.
Yeah, exactly.
We're no strangers to ambition. Yeah, so that was bagpipes.
That was bagpipes.
You confirm that this is music that people would hear in the game. It's the UEE theme.
That one is indeed thematic. Then the rest of the Hold the Line video is also Squadron music.
So good.
But not necessarily being used thematically. It's more like, especially because the way it's cut, we're going from location to location and event to event, and we're not necessarily showing it in linear order.
No.
So you're getting a sense of what the sum of the soundscape of the score will be. But I think there's a lot more than bagpipes that are going to stand out, I think, to make the score feel special for all of the different, especially places, but all of the different story.
Yeah, I imagine each fleet
we're telling with this.
Like it's not even just a UE or human thing. I'm betting each fleet is going to have a little bit of a motif that it'll be nice to see how he spread these out throughout the game, man. It's absolutely amazing that we get this kind of detail in a space game, because we just don't get enough space games, and the ones that we do, they have to do what they can with the market they have available to them. It's awesome that they can actually put enough money to focus on this level of detail in a game like this. And I know some people might think it's a waste, but music's huge. Who doesn't like a little bit of music? I mean, I understand not everybody can experience it the same way, and I'm very, very sorry for that. I hope that we can figure out technologies that help with that. But music is awesome.
With this, I mean, it's a huge story.
Yeah. Gotcha. Well, hope you all like saxophones too.
Yeah, well, we haven't done the saxophone version of the UEE hymn. Now that you mention it, maybe I'll get on that.
I still have our fake soundtrack, man. I still got it.
Oh, I love it. Admiral Bishop's Tax Returns was on there. I can't remember if it's track 3. Maybe.
Yeah, it was track 3. Good memory.
Was it really?
Good memory.
Look at that.
All right, Jeff. That's it. That's all we got time for, man. Thank you so much for.
I could keep talking.
No, we gotta save it. We got a whole Squadron 42 promotional thing. We get to start once once the game goes further along, and we'll have plenty of time to talk there. For now, we just want to. We had what was it? It was practically.
I mean, just like thinking about the last month of Star Citizen and thinking about what it's going to be like to cover a Squadron 42 marketing blitz is going to be insane.
It was breakfast for lunch, I think, is technically what I had. We had our little, hang out when we were there, and I said, let's have you on the show and talk a little bit about some bagpipes and introduce you to some people. And so that's all we're doing for today. So thank you so much. Thank you for waking up at 8 o'clock in the morning to do this over there.
Problem.
And we'll see you later, man. Take care.
Awesome. Thanks, Jared. I'll see you soon.
So yeah, that's it for this week's show. Special thanks to Guillermo and Torsten and Jeff Zanelli for being here on the show with us this week. We appreciate you taking the time out of your schedules to do that. There won't be a show next week, as I'm going to be off in Ireland for another Bar Citizen event. So if you're in Ireland and Dublin, you can check that out. I'll see you there. Next week, ISC returns with a look at the Pyro Playground and how that all came together and what was involved there and stuff. It was a pretty big event in the development of Star Citizen, and we thought for certain we could take a look at that and how that came together while we all head into the amazing new year that was spec'd out at CitizenCon. There's a lot of stuff coming, so we appreciate you indulging us, taking another week to look back at something before we continue to look at all the amazing things going forward. So for what show is this? Star Citizen Live. I'm Jared Huckabee. Thanks for watching, and no, this doesn't get any better when it's pre-taped. Bye.
So I think this is kind of how it went last year. IAE was around. They dropped the Inside Star Citizen. Inside Star Citizen, these were about ships. But what we didn't get this year is this, right? We didn't get an IAE all ships talk, which is a little bit sad, because that's an important talk, right? Let's see, SADEV's flight teams, UI teams, yeah. No, we were very light on videos this year. The teams are busy. They're clearly back at work and are focused on putting work together. They're not. They mean business this time, folks. This is a big talk for them to miss. This is usually a pretty hefty update. We get one at Invictus and one at IAE. And to miss the one at IAE, it's a bummer. But last year, I think we did something similar where the Inside Star Citizens were kind of about ships and stuff. And then we came back and they sort of started reviewing what happened over the last year. Or not the last year, over like CitizenCon. So last time they did some of their audio stuff. and then your review. I'm guessing they wanted to hold off at least a week and give themselves some time to know what was going to come in the next update, but maybe they just didn't have too much plan to go over in ISC. I'm guessing they're going to show us the structural salvage in whatever ISC they do show us, and probably this inventory stuff too. And then probably some updates on the Sentok Yai. But yeah, that was Star Citizen Live. Now, because we talked about it, I'm going to go back and watch the Squadron 42 trailer. If you want to join me, stick around, talk about it a little bit. But yeah, that was a review of the music and the engineering going into Star Citizen. Excuse me, you might notice I am sick. I keep leaning off to the side and coughing and sneezing and stuff. It sucks. Shogi, I see, gave us a little bit of a raid over on Twitch. I don't know if they got a shout out, hopefully, but if not, I'm going to give you one. Sorry, that was a little while ago. Thank you for the raid, though. Appreciate you dropping in. Tired of those 1 and SCU, 2 SCU boxes trapped eternally in your inventory. Yeah, I would like those in-game. Hey, there he is. How's it going, man? Doing some Star Citizen? You missed the bagpipes at CitizenCon. It was pretty nuts, dude. This whole scene played out. I mean, nobody really knew what was going on. So this was a nice surprise.
Provided that civilian traffic is restricted under lockdown.
Copy that.
So people are theorizing that this is Henry Cavill's character right here. Normally he's flying an F8, but I guess maybe because this is earlier in the game, he's in an F7. But he's, I think, the last major actor that they haven't really been super loud about being in the game. So he said there were some other types of drums in here, like taiko drums. Hear a lot of different percussion in there. The sound that drives us in the morning. Alright, now I'm going to jump forward to some of this gameplay, because I can't get over how satisfying this gameplay sounds to me. I know a lot of people have a lot of criticisms for what we've seen. I am through the roof excited with a lot of this stuff, though.
This means focusing on the small and large elements of the game, such as dialing in combat.
It's just a lot of things that are happening on screen now that feel more like they were designed for a player and less like a QA or tester. You know, we've really been testing this whole time, and this stuff feels more like it's based around playing. And that's like the most satisfying thing ever when you're talking about Star Citizen.
But also looking at the feel of how you control your character or vehicle and making sure it's immersive as possible. We've paid extra attention to how your character reacts when in their ship, so that you feel like an actual pilot, whether that's firing your weapons, taking hits, or punching the afterburners to get to cover. Ship AI has also seen huge improvements, with closer engagement distances and more varied behaviors. And with our new precision targeting mode, the action has never been as close.
I just realized that I just realized my headphones have been turned down this whole time, so I'm a lot louder than I thought I was. Thanks for the heads up there, Jordan.
On Polish, we've organized the project into self-sufficient strike teams, so we can focus on individual areas to deliver the best experience.
Yeah, these like environments also. Difference between a nice handmade environment and the procedural ones we have in Star Citizen.
With a unified vision of enhancing the gameplay by seamlessly blending it with polished visuals, final cinematic performances, and our ever-improving technology.
This is actually kind of blowing out the sound a little bit. Let me turn this down.
You didn't see the boat, kid. You're good to keep going.
You had net problems had to end your stream? Dude, I know that pain. I'm sorry to hear it, mate.
We're also dialing in gameplay features, such as the ship flight model, for both atmosphere and space. Which
like, even these missile indicators are looking a lot more, like, they grab my attention a lot better than the old ones. They also scare the crap out of me.
Our interaction system for both the world and your character have also seen additional improvements, allowing us to hone and craft environmental puzzles.
I also, one of the things I noticed during this was like how nice the, how much nicer the tractor beams looked in all of these sessions that they kept showing us. And then they put it in, like, I'm pretty sure it was 321.1 they dropped in the new tractor beam effects, which was nice.
Unique to each location, while allowing us to tell the story of the world around you.
But yeah, note the music. It's good music. It's got a nice presence to it.
The military multi-tool is an essential piece of equipment for every pilot that integrates all attachments into a single handheld device and allows us to create really interesting challenges, including physics-based puzzles using...
I'm also really want to know what this is. It looks like a really messed up Starfarer.
To create really interesting challenges.
But that's not. See, it's not. It's too small to be a really messed up Starfarer. Like, what the heck? Just some unknown ship, but it looks like it has so much little custom stuff attached to it.
Including physics-based puzzles using our updated rope tech.
Some kind of barge.
Unidentified vessels. This is the UEE.
Alright, on to this part. I really like
In
this.
a suite of improvements.
The freaking... So the way they talk about this in the recent UI video, tell me if you feel this is how they're going about it. It sounds like this is going to replace our inventory view, yeah? Like our first person... at first they referred to this as like a looting screen in the monthly reports. And then they talked about at CitizenCon how this is how we were going to interact with the stuff on our body. And then they mentioned at this Star Citizen Live that they were going to add armor and undersuit options to this too. So I'm starting to feel like this is just going to be our inventory view outside of our physical interaction with everything. What are you guys thinking? You think they'll still include a separate inventory view? Or will they have this kind of take over? Because they said you could trigger this while not looting as well. Buster Virus, you like the Star Citizen music? Who doesn't like a good bagpipe in the morning? No takers? Either my chat is extremely slow or no takers, so we'll continue on.
From improved looting, weapon feel and balance, realistic scopes, and smoother locomotion, alongside our new and improved FPS
I enjoy
scanner
the way this
that
looks.
provides you an overview of the battlefield, but at the cost of ramping up your own emissions. We've also seen the introduction of our Maelstrom.
Yeah, I think a lot of people had problems with this stuff. First-person shooting, I'm not sure. I think they can tighten some things up, but I think it looks really exciting and pretty cinematic.
Challenging combat encounters that really push your tactical awareness and skill. We play and review the builds regularly and call out action points in each level from start to finish and where we need to improve the gameplay.
Still think this is a transition to zero-G kind of thing here.
Ultimately, this is the final phase of gameplay iteration before we fully transition into optimization and stability on the road to release.
I can't get over just how much better all these types of things look than what we used to have. As far as like, I mean, if you haven't seen it, I put a video out kind of comparing some of these scenes to what we were doing beforehand in Star Citizen, and like just Quantum Exit itself looks like a completely different. They've redone it very well.
Gameplay iteration before we fully transition into optimization and stability on the road to release.
Agent Trejo, this is Colton. Come back. Always trips me out to see terraforming setups like this. Webb tried explaining how atmosphere processors work. Really shows how far we've come. What the hell is she?
With the transition of Squadron to polish phase, we've had the opportunity to find additional moments within the existing narrative to add subtle interactions where appropriate. It's been tremendously exciting to play through these areas and find places to augment the mood, support gameplay, and further embellish our story and characters.
So yeah, man, I can't believe it. They said I've got to wait another 2 years before I can reapply. So that's why I figured I'd get a job trying in security, because that's, you know, I can get some hours flying in the cockpit and whatnot. Can't hurt, right?
Can't hurt.
Exactly.
Just like gruffs out an answer.
And whatnot. Can't hurt, right?
We've also been capturing pickups for our lead female player character, as well as wild lines for our various enemies that you all will encounter throughout the game.
They're using British voice actors. Bad sign.
A range of responses and reactions that you as the player can trigger, which has been the culmination of efforts by the gameplay and AI teams. This means that you're going to have to tangle with some very smart and reactive bad guys to complete your mission.
I really wonder what's going on in this situation. I'm guessing that's not Trejo, right? She's not in an M50. But clearly they don't want to blow them up, whoever it is. But at the same time, then it's like, why in the world is the M50 not just leaving? I guess maybe they're scared of the Buccaneer. I don't know. I wonder what's going on in this scene, though.
At the heart of this immersive adventure, you'll find cutting-edge cinematic storytelling, thoughtfully crafted to fully immerse you into your story.
We fight today! So in 40 years from now, when you're surrounded by everything and everyone you hold dear, and they ask, what did you do in the Battle of Vega? You can look them in the eye and say, I held the line. Men and women of the Second Fleet,
I bought the ship.
I am proud to stand with you today. Good luck. Push your button.
She's turning herself into exchange for the Pico.
Any word from the recon team?
Not yet.
Any word from Pico?
Let's get into position.
Nothing from Pico yet. Lot of Battlestar Galactica feels with these kinds of shots. They love that zoom, you know?
Throughout the polish phase,
Man.
our team is taking
Can we go back real
to
quick and look at what the freaking heck this looks like now? Like, oh my god, guys, it's almost painful. If we like go back and look at their little announcement trailer, let's see if we can find a similar shot of the Bengal. No, that's not far enough behind it. Here we go. Excuse me. Talk about a glow up. Get out of here. Like, look at that. Oh my god. This picture's like, where are your pixels? We can't even go up to 4K on this one. But yeah. They really I mean, you would expect it to get better, so thank God.
Throughout the polish phase, our team is taking every opportunity to push things to the next level.
Tell me you're expecting company?
This is not good.
The Cine team is focused on finalizing edit lock on all of our big action as well as all smaller character sequences.
I could have pulled this off of the Galactopedia.
Yeah, probably. But
Dude, this is nuts. I still can't get over it. Like, what did they do? The difference... It's like making somebody out of wax versus fabric.
their solar mass calculations are wrong, though.
Well, this is ridiculous.
How so?
We are now able to adjust our shot composition to final cameras thanks to recently crafted space vistas and level art being content complete now.
It'd be nice to know how much of a shitstorm we're flying into.
More like a hellstorm, Blue. One you ain't gonna fly out of.
Shut up.
Now, I hadn't seen another ship that wasn't trying to kill me in days, let alone a hauler, let alone a Jean. So you can imagine my surprise.
Detailed lighting passes can be done on a
Who
hero
is it that
sequence.
Mrs. Tomato was joking about this? Stephen Tucci or somebody like that? Instead of Mark
So
Strong.
we can show our cast and convey their emotions in the best light possible. And we're making sure our cinematics are triggering as fluid as we can craft them so they form a coherent concerto with the rest of the player's narrative experience.
Mr. Wexler, this is Lieutenant Commander Colton.
Oh, Commander, hey, Julian Wexler. I'm the field manager of this little operation. Welcome aboard the Archon. What brings the Navy to this little corner of the universe?
We got you flying with Lieutenant Commander Colton. He's one of our best.
As others will share, this is the most rewarding chapter of development, which allows us to truly experience the visceral and oftentimes emotional moments that our narrative provides.
How did you handle it after Vega?
I'm not sure I handled anything. It helps to
They
remember that stuff.
totally
I was
just
supposed
smoked
to.
a lot of weed, really.
I've never been good at dealing.
In the hangar to make it as immersive and
Let's see.
believable and
I'm going to jump forward to more of the gameplay parts of this. Oh, I actually do really like this, though. This is some nice
This means
interaction.
everything flows and looks like all the great mocap performances we've captured.
Player character in that instance was the guy.
Let's ready some extra ice packs out of storage. Whenever gunners are on full rotation, you can always count on at least one of them getting hurt.
We also have you covered in everyday life. The medical staff work diligently for their patients, whether they're players or crew.
Or crew. Probably could have done a little comparison there to the old... Did they go in the medical deck back in the old vertical slice? You guys remember? Let's look that up real quick. Let's see how much they actually walk around the ship. I want to say no. They go to the armory. They walk around the hallways, the hangar, but never the actual medical facility. Oh. Nope.
About the new
So we don't actually get to see what that looks like. Oh, that's the lieutenant. If you haven't seen what she looked like, remember when you just asked who was the player character in that scene? The woman who was sitting there saying, "I don't know how you deal with this stuff." That was her, right here. So there's another comparison for you. Now, granted, this is more cinematic scene, but you get the idea.
I'm not sure I handled anything.
She looks the same, but obviously it's that same sort of wax to fabric update.
We really want you to feel part of an authentic crew, an important part of the UEE Navy in an enormous universe of people going about their everyday lives.
Let's go ahead and clear for takeoff. Ground crew, prep bay for takeoff.
Copy that.
Hangar, ready for launch. Takeoff approved, Baron 2. You have the ball.
ready and hold on as you're launched off the deck of the carrier.
Baron 2, you are cleared for launch. Have a safe flight, Baron 2.
Yeah, the difference in experience between that and the vertical slice. In fact, let's go back to the vertical slice with commentary. So I'm pretty sure they talk about that, how just absolutely not what they wanted it to be. It was. There we go. Let's listen to what they were saying about the old version.
Put it on, and there's a flip we could do, and then we'll get it. And again, this is another example of, we're in. This is live gameplay. It's sort of trigger because we don't control Old Man, so we want to sort of show off the fun of that Top Gun launch kind of thing.
Yep.
Totally. So we trigger that. But if you wanted to not deal with that, you could hit the key and be just sitting here in the cockpit watching it all happen in front of you, rather than the more cinematic stuff that's happening.
Sure, and then CTEL calls you from
So either from the point of view here or seeing this, but this we're going for a cinematic feel. So personally, I think this is how I would see it. I think a lot of players would do that. But if you don't want it, you want to be all point of view, then you can have that too. And we still are sort of space lighting still has a ways to go, like the live
a ways to go.
Dynamic GI that we're working on.
But imagine showing this off and like wanting to reach this. Like, I'd hate to do that. I'd hate to be showing this with this being the goal. I know, obviously, this is the goal 6 years later, and it wouldn't have been the same a couple years after this. But, like, obviously there was a big step between this and what they wanted to ship.
Quite yet, so that will add a lot to.
And also with all the camera cuts, we're turning on and off certain lights, we're opening doors, we're doing all this stuff in real time. And again, because it's not in a video, this is all actually in the world right beside the player happening. So there's just a bigger challenge with it.
And it's why you see the frame rate drop a little bit, because there's a lot more stuff getting drawn here. And you're also seeing some things like
landing
you
gear
saw some
flickering.
jittering on the landing gear because it's all physicalized.
And this is again what I was talking about. If they had done all of this sort of talking over the Squadron 42 Held the Line trailer, people wouldn't have taken it as seriously. And I think this is specifically a director's commentary version, but still, this is what we had presented as Squadron 42 before, so you can understand why people are so much more interested and impressed with what we now got to see in the new trailer.
And there's sort of there was some conflict between the animation and the actual physics simulation, which is all stuff we'll dial in and won't be there in the final one. But it's still early stages, so
it's also worth throwing out that the level of detail on the flight deck crew. That whole handoff thing is. That's all.
That's another Stephen Better specialist.
Well, I think he got hold of
he
got hold of some proper carrier deck crew.
So this is where, and you know what? I'll put them. I did this in my video. If you go onto my YouTube channel, I did a whole comparison between the old and new footage we have. But I'll kind of give you a little side by side here as these play out. Super Savage God, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate you. I don't know if people can buy the Javelin. I don't think you can anymore. I think only on Aegis Day, but somebody else in chat might be able to answer that. As for getting the game, I would try a free flight event and see if you like it before getting into it. There's no reason to rush into it. It's not going up in price really. $45 is the buy-in, and you're not losing out on anything if you don't. But if you're ready for the glitches and the bugs and the slow development, which might be speeding up a little bit, then yeah, you could try getting into it.
And they sort of worked out what different people would do in this sort of situation, because it's slightly different for this than you would be on an aircraft carrier, because we're not really have a catapult.
Let's go ahead and clear for takeoff.
But we kind of have it for
ground
fun.
crew, prep bay for takeoff.
Luckily, you don't need this many people to launch a ship in the persistent universe.
Yeah, so it was a little bit dark in this
capture. So you can see they're both doing the same stuff.
Yeah, they were doing actual semaphore. That would be for.
I think the thing was that we just put in a change in the lighting state for the launch, which is this emergency, and it needs a few more lights because you can't.
They look like
you can literally see how much better you can see the guy on the new one.
They're like giving you the spin your engines up. Okay, they do the triangle over them for you to go to hover.
And then this
mode.
launch is super slow.
And here's us sort of launching, and you can see that's loading a bunch of stuff outside.
And then this launch.
Yeah. And then we cut out to the third person to show it, and now we're sort of out flying in in sort of the outskirts of the coil where Schubin's based. So the coil, do you want to tell us a little bit about the coil?
See, yeah. Just the presentation style is just so much better.
I would have never thought a shotgun could be so pretty. Damn, this R97 is sleek as hell. Like a lot of other weapons in Gemini's arsenal, it has a higher rate of fire than most guns of its type.
We're working to support a feel of authenticity through world traversals, running, jumping, and climbing.
Love some platforming.
Interactions with objects and the environment.
Not sure how I feel about quick action things with a keyboard, because my keyboard is just... Open the door! Hold door!
Solid weapon.
Also, can we please get this in the PU? If anybody at CIG is watching, please, can we have this in the PU? Please, at the gun stores, this would be so cool. Even if, like, put this in Arena Commander or something. I'm guessing this is on the Idris, but I would love to just be able to test out some guns in the game. Oops.
Play and enemy reactions, as well as combat realities, such as weapon malfunctions. Or in close encounters of the more lethal kind. Ooh, that's gonna hurt in the morning. As we continue to focus on the quality experience, we've been working
The amount of
closely
movement in
with our
these
art teams, and it's been exciting
scenes
to see their
is always
environments
very
come
impressive.
to life alongside us.
While animation and design have been populating the locations, polish phase for my teams means making huge advancements in the quality of our characters and environments. We've established our standard with recognizable characters like Mark Hamill, Gillian Anderson, and Gary Oldman, and we're now applying this to the rest of the cast and identifying any remaining tech requirements that need to be closed down.
You'd be like, rest of the cast,
The
what the
story of
heck?
Squadron 42 takes you through a variety of diverse locations of varying scales and...
Okay, tell me why that sounds like the tractor beam sound in the background here. That always throws me off.
Takes you through...
Isn't that the tractor beam noise? What's going on here?
The story of Squadron 42 takes you through a variety of diverse locations of varying scales and styles. We shared glimpses of several environments before, and there's still plenty out there for you to discover.
You know, you say they should give newer actors a chance rather than these millionaires, but there are a lot of small actors in this game. That's actually one of the things that they focused on. You know what? History time!
And then here's us sort of
If you're
launching.
going to give me the prompt, I'm going to give you the lesson, you know. Listen to the discussion they have during this part.
Yeah. Maybe 6'6" or something. The Argo kind of come up just a tiny bit.
Well, he's big in real life too. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe 6'6" or something.
Ain't like they're gonna be here long either. What the hell are you all going on about?
It's very simple. We're OMC. And OMC belongs to Sato Khan. And Sato Khan doesn't like people messing with his things, you got me?
Sato Khan? Is that your boss? Are we supposed to be scared of him or something?
Yeah.
Neuer, run up to the holding cells. Make sure everything's ready for us. I don't want to move them through the ship until we have...
See again, it's just the subtle emotion, right?
Yeah, I think I
This is when
passed the
we usually get
part
that.
where they're talking about
Well,
it.
yeah, I mean that's when you've got the performance capture.
Yeah.
And the playthrough.
just
We're
kinda
kind of waiting for the Argo to come in, but that's all happening live in the game. And then we're taking over. And if you went back to your point of view, you would see this playing out from the point of view up where you were in the sort of ready room.
For me, this is one of the best examples of why having all the faces at the level that we have, all the characters at the level we have, all the performances at the level we have, really, really makes a difference to the game. Because this is you get real invested in this cutscene. You can see some subtle emotions that are really, really hard to communicate from a game character. For example, being in charge but scared at the same time.
Yeah.
So you can see these guys are hauling these guys out. The first, it's pretty easy, and then they start to get a little bit nervous and these kind of things.
But yeah, I mean,
you can even see it on their faces. Like to be able to read a face like that is a tricky thing in most games.
No, I've never been in one of these. It's nice. Not as nice as a Bengal, but nice. Move it. Oh, come on, clear out.
I thought they talked.
It was actually fun to shoot this on the day. Wasn't it, Dave?
IMC's gonna have to teach you.
I thought they talked a bit more about the actors here, but I guess I might be remembering that wrong.
Maybe a couple eye darts in there, and that would be good. It's close. It's so close.
But you can see, I mean, just from this, there are a lot of actors in this game that are fully motion captured, that are fully scanned in, full voice lines. They're not just going with big actors for this. They are for some of the big roles, definitely. But I mean, even somebody like this role, where is it? Yeah, her. I think she's like kind of a decent known actress, but I don't think she's, what you would call like a AAA actress or anything like that. No offense to her. But I think that they're doing a pretty decent job of including a lot of different calibers of people in here. Where were we?
2 takes you through a variety of diverse locations of varying scales and styles. We shared glimpses of several environments before, and there's still plenty out there for you to discover. One of the main challenges the art team has had to face during the development of Squadron 42 is ensuring the visuals are complementary to the narrative of the script. The mood and feeling of a space is just as important to us as it is making sure we hit the visual quality that CIG has become known for.
Oh good, we can't hack it from this side. Graves, we got a locked door. Can you give us access?
No, I'm afraid that's a negative, Steve. I would have to add you to our system to give you override permissions, and there's a lot involved in that. It won't happen quickly.
Okay, we'll figure something out.
Everything you see during the campaign has been heavily inspired by the classics of 70s and 80s sci-fi, but with a modern twist. We want everything you see to feel like it has a soul, its own personality, and tells of a history long before you arrived. Crafting interesting flight spaces and their connecting tissue has been one of the more unique challenges we've needed to overcome for Squadron. Developing our VDB tech to blend seamlessly.
Yo, is this like is this just gonna be completely different? This doesn't even look like what they had for the coil before, right? I keep going back to this video because it's very easy video to go back to. But like there's the coil before was just okay. Let me just take a step back. The coil is huge. What they showed us before flying through could just be an entirely different segment of the place actually. So that might not be a worthwhile comparison to make. But this looks just so much different in terms of like the atmosphere of the place. It's really cool. The more you watch the new HUD, the more you want it. Yeah, it makes it harder to play the game. That's why I just keep watching this. There'll be tons of extras and C-list actors. Yeah. Yeah. You assume most of them are out of work and hungry. Yeah, actors don't make as much money as people think they do. The big ones make a ton of money, but the big names in every industry make a ton of money. I would think most of the people who are acting in this game are probably, this is another job to help their career. Not necessarily like a major paying thing or something like that.
Tighter traversal spaces and into wider space vistas and planets has proved incredibly difficult but rewarding, ensuring that Squadron flows seamlessly from one chapter to the next without interruption. Creating a diverse array of locations is essential to us. Our environments need to work from a variety of scales. We need to pay close attention to detail, whether we're working in a dirty engineering vent or navigating the debris of a dying star, wondering what may be around that next corner, or even who may live there, how would they have survived, and what state of mind may they be in.
Yeah, but who is there though? What do we get to do there? Okay, so what do you guys think of this star globe? They don't really talk to us about this too much, but they've kind of given us the idea that we'll be using it. They talked, I think, in the UI Star Citizen Live about how we would use this for like larger fleet movements and stuff. And this is on a few different ships. But I can't tell what the heck's going on here. It just looks like cloud soup to me, which I guess is what the coil probably looks like. But I am really excited to use a gigantic map. That's pretty cool. It's like one of those novel sci-fi things you just enjoy seeing in movies. Hopefully see that in the PTU. The coil? Yeah, it'll be in the Odin system, so we'll see it. All of this will be in there. I mean, not all of this. The area will. Data fed up from the
We've
Terrapin.
worked closely with our social teams in delivering a cohesive social experience when you're taking some downtime from our refined flight and FPS missions, or even missions of the more eerie kind.
What'd that say?
Or even missions.
Huh. Man, this interaction system looks so much nicer than the rest. Like, as simple as having a little like thing to notify you that you can interact with it is just a big step forward for people.
Of the
Simple
more
thing,
eerie kind.
but it's big.
We'll be introducing new space stations on a massive scale.
Oh, this is beautiful. I love this space station. I think partially it is the lighting, but also the style of this space station makes it... This feels like a rest stop. If you were to tell me, space station rest stop, what would you think it would look like? It would be this. Way more than what we have. This looks like a... This looks like a stop-off location. This looks like a rest stop on the side of a highway. Like, you have the different little advertisements. You got the fuel thing here. You got like the overhead lights. This all feels so much more fitting for a rest stop type of space station than what we have. And I hope that us seeing this kind of points to these stations will be somewhere in the PU as well someday.
We'll be introducing new space stations on a massive scale, all brought together and designed to be as tangible as possible. We've thought about their function,
God, and the
their
music,
age, and tried to ensure there's a progression in artistic style with each station as you progress through the game.
I really like this music.
As you can see today, the teams are working incredibly hard, ramping up the detail and quality to match the breadth of our vision for Squadron 42.
Now I know you're all...
Gosh, Jeff, well done, dude. Well done. So yeah, that's kind of... I just wanted to go back through and listen again to some of the parts of that video and get more of the music in, because the music, I think, does make a really big difference to how this stuff translates to us. And I'm sure some of these scenes will play differently because they won't have the same music playing at that time, but the way that they put this trailer together is really well done, from the dialogue to the scenes they chose to the type of gameplay they showed, down to the music. It's always nice to come back through and watch it. Now I want more videos. It's like CIG, put out a new video every month. We need more. You'd love to play Command and Conquer on our holographic table, or command troops on a planet from orbit. Sounds like, what was that game? Tom Clancy's Endgame, I think. It's the RTS, the Tom Clancy RTS. You can like control things with your hands and voice. Is that the Super Caterpillar? This? I don't think this is Drake. Might be. Don't know what this is though. Hey, Mihazaris, thank you so much for the sub. Right here at the end of the stream too. Almost got us to our goal for the day on Twitch. Appreciate you. Thank you everybody who's supporting on Twitch, by the way, today. Not the Bengal either. No, Bengal has much different thrusters. This is probably a ship we just don't know yet. I mean, we can kind of see another one here. Could actually be the same one. So this looks like it could be similar to whatever this is.
stations on a massive scale.
Oh.
We'll be introducing new space stations on a massive scale.
So this kind of has similar thrusters, but it's not the exact same pattern. Definitely same kind of ship though. They look like just large cargo
together and designed
haulers.
to be as tangible as possible.
This
Thought
might be
about
the
their
same ship.
function, their age, and try to ensure there's a
And
progression.
you can see
in
as we
our
fly over the top here, there's plenty of little cargo containers down here on the top of the ship. So this is very much styled after what we know as our current sea freighters that are transporting goods. So I'm thinking that's probably what we're seeing at the end there. And they haven't revealed what this is or who it's made by or anything like that. But this actually does look a lot like, now that I think of it, this reminds me a lot of the mining station, the Shubin mining station, where a lot of the game takes place. What's my organization rolling game? We do a lot of general gameplay. We tend to focus mostly on industrial stuff. But we're a self-sustaining conglomerate of citizens. Here at the end of this, not quite at the end actually, somewhere here, yeah. This kind of gives me the same vibes architecturally. I'm no morphologist, but I'm feeling some similarities between the shape language of this and this. And I don't know if this is made by Shubin or if it's just used by Shubin, but I'm pretty sure this is the mining company where we spend a lot of our time in the game. It's got this sort of massive platform. So this could be some new company. This could be some company that we already know with a new manufacturing style. I don't know. But I don't think it's a Caterpillar.
with each station as you progress through the game.
Yeah, it does look very consolidated Outland. It has like a Pioneer sort of look to it. I agree. So maybe Consolidated is working with them, but at the same time, in lore, Consolidated Outland is a very new company. So for them to have a massive mining operation built by Consolidated Outland in the Odin system, which is an old system, would be going against lore, but they're not known to do that, or they are known to do that at times. So let's see. Consolidated Outland, Star Citizen, I'm pretty sure it's like a 20-year-old company. Maybe. Yeah. Launched in... No, sorry, that was a Pioneer. Launched in 2947. Where is the history? CNOU is a baby. It's not even... They're not even telling me a date. Founded by Trillionaire. They're not even telling us a date, but Silas Corner was born in 2899. So like this company is no more than 50 years old, basically. Like we know for a fact it's no more than 50 years old. So they might not have that much infrastructure around the system, but maybe. Hey Jedi. Primed for a change in history. I don't know. They introduced that company pretty late, so it seems like they were fairly certain on how they wanted it to fit into the story in the game. But we'll see what they do with it. It's an interesting company. Anyways, folks, that's about it for today. I am all done. But if you look on the Discord, you can find the stream schedule for this week. Got some good stuff planned. Our Siulen giveaway is still going on. Podcast just came out, talking about the new mining ship with Croncy and Red Monster and the future of mining, how it's going to work with cracking up rocks, permanent resource deposits, and stuff like that. It's a good talk. That just came out on audio platforms and YouTube. And let's see. So tomorrow, I believe I'm doing some gameplay stuff, perhaps. I'll be doing some reputation bumping. And then on Wednesday... either tomorrow or Wednesday, depends on Mrs. Tomatoes say, but she will be joining us as we can, there it is, on stream on Wednesday. Mrs. Tomato is joining us for some Siulen testing, so we'll be doing some gameplay together. She'll probably take over and I'll have some commentary and we'll see if we can wreck some ships and kill some folks and stuff. Thursday is going to be some more chatting, talking about Star Citizen development. Friday, we will be live with the organ. Saturday, my friend, Saturday, I'll be live here with STL Youngblood. He's returning for his second episode on the Launch Sequence podcast, and we'll be talking about the next 12 months of spaceships, what you can expect, what you should be excited for, and what you should probably forget about. And I think he's got great insight on ships. I don't get to get him around very much, so I would definitely say show up to that if you want to come. I'm going to also try and have him on for an offline Q&A, so if you're a supporter, you can join us on the Discord for that. But we got a lot of stuff planned for this week, and a video coming out pretty soon about the aliens of Star Citizen, what they are, what they represent, who their ships are made for, and when you might be able to fly them. And then I've got another video I'm working on talking about like the next 12 months of features. So it's all Star Citizen all the way down for like the next couple weeks and beyond. And we've got good plans for December too. I won't let too much of that go by, but it does rhyme with Streamathon. So I'm going to send you all on to one of the other lovely Star Citizen folks out there today. One of the goods. The newies, but the goodies. Do 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 do. I'll send you over to Detox. Beamathon. It is a Beamathon. No, but really, if you guys want to get involved in some gameplay, stick around for that Streamathon. We'll be doing a lot of good stuff just throughout that time. But more news on that later. Make sure to check out the server announcement on Discord if you want to see what's going on, guys. Get into our giveaway, and I'll see y'all around. Have a good one, everybody. Stay fun, stay happy. Go give someone a hug, and eat well. Cheers, folks. Yo, Waffle, thank you so much for the super chat at the end there, by the way. Appreciate you.